Tell us about the tattoos.
Shut the fuck up, little prick.
But then I've got the Phoenix.
Hey, prick.
So I'll take it from Bob every day of the week.
Absolute disgrace.
I'm sure no one will mind.
Move him out of here, Derek.
Ricky Hatton didn't go over for his fighter because he risked getting abducted and sold into sexual
I never said that.
Both have been rape victims. I'm not watching Frank Buglioni live on Saturday night. You're out of your mind.
Jesus Christ, get yourself a life.
He's actually a priest.
Yeah.
It's because his brother John Fury eye gouged him.
What have I told you all this time? He's going to end up sucked out, fucked out, looking for a handout.
Boxing, nutters, messenger group. I'm gonna be the king.
J-Pump, you know what I'm saying?
Well, hello everybody and welcome to the 485th edition of the Boxing Asylum Nuthouse podcast. I'm your host Steve Wellings, and joining me on the call, just the two of us, we have Andy Patterson here. No Matty DiGiordano, he's off running around in his camper van around the United States of America, but we're still here, going live on YouTube from 8 o'clock every Sunday evening. The Patreon RSS feed updates shortly after the show concludes. Hello to everyone listening through the week on SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Don't forget to leave a review on the podcast player of your choice, whichever one it may be, throughout the entire upcoming month of August. Nothing less than 5 stars is acceptable. We haven't had a review in a long time. If you want to leave one, feel free. Screenshot it, send it to me on Twitter, Facebook, Gmail, whatever you want to do, and I'll send you a full season of Punches from the Past of your choice. How about that? Send us a screenshot of your review, and we'll do that. And if it's a nice one, I might even read it out. There's a bit of an off-the-cuff one, Andy. How are you keeping on this Sunday evening? It's just a terrible twosome. Like always, me and yourself. How are you, sir?
Not bad, my friend, not bad. Been doing a bit of flexing, getting the limbs all kind of loosened up for the podcast tonight. You know how it is. Sunday we've got to bring a raid game. Got a wee bit of complaints about last week about awkward silences and Donny and Matty, and I forget what the guy's comments were again actually, but apparently it was the worst podcast he'd heard for a long time. So I don't know how fucking good it's going to be this week. Just the two of us, mate. So we'll wait and see.
I'm going to say, if you want to combat awkward silences, just have two people on. I think that's probably not the best way to go about it. Poor old Donny. We could have tried to dig him up again, or hey to Dave. And as we've always said, if we got rid of everybody that everybody suggests, there'd be silence every week for 2 hours.
Exactly, mate. You'd be fucking sitting here listening to an empty stage, basically. That's what you'd be doing.
And some of these lot probably would too.
After 2.5 hours.
2.5 hours, yeah. We'll see how we get on tonight. People will probably jump on, and what do you know? It'll be near 11 o'clock, and we'll probably be 3 hours in, as we always are. But we'll see. We'll rumble on through. We've got a bit of Chris Billingsmith coming up later on, bit of Channel 5, and all the action for next week. We've had a question. We've got Value of the Weeks. We'll dig up some talking points. Let's start off, though, in the Barclays Centre, as Matty would say, over in Brooklyn. Tom Brown Promotions, PBC, Showtime. Danny Garcia against Jose Benavidez Jr. Andy, the scores were a little bit off for me. There was no real call for the 114 card. I thought 117, 111 was more accurate. I could see a 116, 112 at a stretch because across the first half of the fight, Benavidez was at least landing his jab, landing the right hand. But as the fight went on, all he was really offering was defiance and bravado. The posturing, the taunting, it was masking the fact that he was barely landing a thing of note towards the end.
It really was, mate. I mean, I thought Garcia looked pretty content just to box behind his jab. I don't know if it was maybe something to do with the rehydration. Benavidez, somebody said that he was clocking it just over 170 pounds there before he went into the ring there last night. So it is a fair stack he's put on there. But same thing, I thought Garcia defended well, showed an old head, shall we say, a bit of experience, showed a bit of patience, landing the right hand, as you mentioned. Just kept it simple, didn't he? Jab, right hand, used his legs. That's what you really need to do, actually. If you don't need to overcommit, especially against a guy who's much bigger than you in terms of weight, for example, then that's all you really need to do. Benavidez, I thought, just followed him about the ring, attempted to get rough at times. but I just didn't think he was as polished enough as Garcia, who was well ahead of the cards as far as I'm concerned, especially going into the latter half of the fight. Maybe kind of slightly slowed down a wee bit, kind of middle rounds, maybe got tagged from about round 6 possibly. I think we can say Garcia's power certainly hasn't travelled up. I think Matty mentioned it last week, especially at 147, hasn't really had a notable knockout. It seemed to be that case here last night. Didn't seem to kind of really bother with the power shots. He kept, as I say, jab upstairs, jab to the body, right hands followed in for good measure sometimes. So probably saying that it's a concern for Garcia kind of like going forward, especially at 154. If that's what he's planning to campaign out, I don't think so. I think he's got other options. I think he can maybe fight Thurman, for example, at a catch weight. Obviously, there's no belt on the line. Maybe somebody mentioned he called out Lara there last night, possibly at a catch weight as well. And somebody I think mentioned even Tony Harrison, but I think Tony Harrison's far too big for him actually, especially at 154 in all honesty. So I think I wouldn't want to see him take that fight. All in all, it was an okay fight, shall we say, a wee bit kind of uninspiring possibly kind of towards the end. It kind of like petered out, it just got kind of repetitive. As you say about the scorecards and that, the 114 card is a disgrace as far as I'm concerned. That was the same judge that had Manny Pacquiao getting beat 117 or 111 off Jeff Horn, so bad night at the office for that person. So all in all, though, it was a decent-ish performance. He did what he had to do, as I say. He's kept it simple, kept it boxing, and if that's all you need to do, that's all you need to do to get the win.
Yep, sometimes you just got to keep it nice and simple. I picked Garcia points in the prediction league last week, but of course, as people remember, I changed it up to a KO to try and keep things interesting, so that went well. Anyway, I expected Benavidez to wilt and tire down the stretch, which he did in his last fight as well. He was helped on his way by Garcia's stellar bodywork. The jab, as Andy mentioned, was excellent. He kept his distance. The range was spot on for most of the fight, but that bodywork was lovely. It was superb. 153 body punches landed in total in his first fight at 154. Does it really tell us an awful lot about his long-term prospects at the weight? Because Benavidez himself isn't a natural at that weight either, even though Benavidez apparently rehydrated up to 172 pounds, which is some crazy jump. As you mentioned, Andy, Tony Harrison milling about in the crowd. I don't know, I think I'd maybe be happy enough about that. Other people are talking about a Thurman rematch. Thurman fights so inconsistently and so irregularly now. It's almost like a wasted fight for him. Serve Thurman up to boots. Let's smash his body to pieces. Finally get rid of him. As for Garcia Harrison, do you know what I think makes it interesting? I think Harrison is a very talented fighter. He's skillful, he's athletic, he's mobile, but he fades down the stretch badly. If Garcia's landed 153 body punches against Benavidez and he lands somewhere near that total against Harrison, what's to say Big Tony, who's a big lad, I think he's about 6'1". I've met him in person when he fought in the Barclays Centre, funny enough, on the Frampton undercard. Those body shots from Garcia going in on Harrison, all of a sudden it could be quite interesting down the stretch, that one, under.
Yeah, he didn't look really convincing. Was it Bryant Parella? It was a draw after the Charlo fight as well. Didn't look too convincing, as you say. Maybe it is the gas tank. Disappointed actually in his last performance against Charlo. So yeah, it's an interesting enough fight. To be honest, I think the Thurman one's probably easier for him to make actually in terms of like the weight. I don't see Danny being any sort of force at 154. So if he's able to kind of like make paydays, safe-ish fights, maybe Lara's getting old as well. Maybe he hasn't got the foot movement as such. To be fair, if they do slow down the stretch, it would maybe be suitable for a Garcia opponent. But I just think Harrison's just too big for him, to be honest with you. If it is a 154 fight and once he hydrates as well, it would just be interesting the kind of very early half of that fight to see how it would fare out. If Garcia can maybe withstand any pressure and maybe kind of come on down the stretch possibly, but I just don't think he's got the power at 154 to possibly even be troubling the likes of maybe Tony Harrison, who has shown he can be brittle at 154. But I'm not against the Thurman fight, to be honest with you, or the Lara fight. The easiest fights to make, and possibly in terms of the weight at least, and I think they're probably more kind of convenient, I would say, for Danny Garcia.
No, I agree. I wouldn't really mind to see Thurman. The only thing is at the moment is just like I said, he fights so irregularly. I'm really buzzing for that Boots fight. Although maybe Boots against Garcia. I tell you what, there'll be some size disparity. All Philadelphia clash though. Boots is from the dungeon. He looked quite heavy last night in the crowd. Don't know how he makes the weight. He won't make it for much longer, but he's gunning for the top guys at the moment. As for the loser, Benavidez always struck me as a bit of a troubled soul. I suppose if you're getting shot in the leg and going out the game for 4 years, then that's maybe an understatement. He's very erratic. I hope he stays on the straight and narrow now and gets back in the ring in a few months, because he has a bit of currency in the bank. He has the Benavidez name. His brother's obviously riding high. He can still be a contender or maybe challenge other contenders. I think there's money to be made for him. I think his behaviour in the ring covered up the fact that he hadn't got the stamina last night to go for broke, because if he had done, he'd been bother. Even though he has a solid chin, I think he was messing around a little bit because he couldn't just put his foot down and get on with it. What do you think about Benavidez, his prospects going forward, Andy?
Again, mate, I get it depends where he's going to be campaigning. As you say, that was his second fight in as many years. I think it was. You say, I think after the Crawford fight, he's not had many fights since then. So if he's going to be up at 154, I think he becomes some sort of kind of gatekeeper, to be honest with you, for maybe some of the younger guys coming through, or he just plods away, picking off contenders from about the top 10, top 15 names possibly. Maybe try and get himself into contention. I mean, he's not going to get a title fight anytime soon at 54, in all honesty. The keys to the gate is Charlo, isn't it? So I don't see, unless they want him to have an easy kind of payday or an easy fight for Charlo, easy defence, which I don't see that happening anytime soon. 47 stacked up as well with the champions. It's up to Benavidez. I think if he makes cash, it makes sense for him really. So if he's willing to kind of fight maybe a Ortiz, I think he's fighting next week or the week after. Ennis. I see David Avanesian has got a European title fight in Spain coming up possibly. So maybe the options at 47 aren't there actually either as well. So I don't know really, mate, to be honest with you. Who would you think? Apart from like maybe, again, we just mentioned Tony Harrison there, for example. What's happened with Tim Tszyu? Is he signed on for the Charlo fight yet? Has that been signed and sealed?
Hopefully so. I'm imagining, yeah. I really want to see that fight, Andy.
And then you got maybe Castano, a decent enough comeback fight for both guys. Castano coming off that Charlo defeat.
Liking that shout.
Benavidez, I mean, they're roughly kind of around about the same size. Decent styles, I would think. I probably favour Castano, I think, actually, to be honest, in terms of activity. You've got the Russian, Kurbanov. He's kind of kicking about waiting for his title shot. He's shown he's decent enough. I think they're kind of guys on similar levels. And then you're kind of then looking at some of the DAZN fighters, like, is it Madrimov? I don't know if he's exclusive to DAZN.
I think he is, yeah.
Yeah, Soros had an L taken. Who was it he lost to recently?
Madrimov?
Was it Madrimov?
Aye. Yeah, they clashed the rematch. They clashed the heads, didn't
they?
The
rematch, that's right. Aye, another one, the French boy who's been kicking his heels, Sissoko.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's got a bit of glass about him. I don't think the Virgil Hunter link-up suits Sissoko. I think he needs to fight Virgil off.
I believe so. Then obviously we've seen a fight there last night. Troy Williamson, he's kind of gunning for Josh Kelly, who obviously we'll pick up on that fight in a little bit. And that the other one as well, it just kind of cropped to me. I watched the fight a couple of weeks back actually. No Fundora, but what about Erickson Lubin for maybe the likes of Benavidez for a comeback fight?
Yes, perfect. That is exactly the type of PBC fight that they would make. Also, I'm looking down the rankings and I'm seeing Lubin. I'm seeing Terrell Gosha. I'm not saying I want to see these fights, but I'm thinking of PBC thinking. Yeah. Luke Santamaria or maybe Jesus Ramos. That would be a nice fight for Ramos. All PBC fighters, knowing the way PBC work, I could see any of them guys. But Lubin, yeah, that makes perfect sense. Be exciting too.
Yeah, it would definitely fill up a decent Showtime card. Maybe even bury it on a pay-per-view possibly. Maybe even a Spence Crawford fight, hopefully some point later on this year, maybe. Outside the PBC, you need to start looking at Europeans. I would imagine. I mean, Sam Eggington, Jack Kulkai. I don't know if these guys are going to be on the radar basically, but Patrick Teixeira, I think he got beat in Russia a couple of weeks back. So he'll be dropping out the top 15 soon. So a couple of options there, I would say. I don't know. Well, Tim, we say options, but we say options in terms of fans. How this kind of plays out politically, we just don't know. Carlos Adams, I see he's still ranked. Austin Trout's another one. I think he had a comeback win recently as well, possibly. So maybe that's a fight that could get made. But again, I think it's down to what Benavidez wants to do in terms of like weight. Where's his motivation at really? Is it just to kind of get a payday? Is he happy to become a gatekeeper, or does he really want to make a serious challenge at a title? If that is the case, he needs to basically settle either on 154 or 147 and then see to it. But again, I still think there's maybe an issue there by like commitment a wee bit for him, to be fair with you.
Yeah, Johnny Horsecock Nelson there saying, remember when Jose Benavidez and Frankie Gomez were meant to be the future of boxing? My God, Frankie Gomez, he was such a talented fighter. Apparently now he's happy enough, Andy, on the West Coast, fixing cars. He's all fat. He was a talented kid.
Yeah, he was. I'm trying to remember some of his fights, but did he like notoriously for like missing weight or whatever?
Missing weight all the time. I think didn't he stop? Herrera, Mauricio, is it Mauricio Herrera? Am I getting the name wrong? Right there, the guy who fought Provodnikov and Danny Garcia.
Danny
Herrera.
Garcia.
Yeah.
They fight him as a pro, did they?
He
Might have been his last fight, yeah.
He fought Herrera. I'm pretty sure he stopped him, and I don't think he fought again after that. I haven't got his record in front of me, but yeah, he was meant to be the future man.
Yeah, he was. I think he went to the finals of one of the major tournaments, maybe the Worlds or the Olympics, possibly, and lost to one of the Cubans. So yeah, he was really, really talented fighter. But you say, he does his own chop shop. The guy's happy, and that. I think I'm trying to remember. Was it like an article kicking about that he absolutely detested? Was it Freddie Roach was his trainer?
Yeah, Freddie Roach.
And he said that he absolutely detested training. He was so talented, but he just hated to turn up and train. You get fighters like that, I suppose. You even get I can some football players actually who were absolutely talented, banging goal scorers and that, and then just because the clubs wanted them to live a certain way, had to basically handle their life to them, that type of thing. He's like, fuck this, that's not for me. Just walked away for the sport. So it's a big call, really.
Yeah, as fans, I think it's funny sometimes. I always think to myself, how could you do that, waste that talent? But if you're not dedicated, if you don't want to get up and do the runs in the morning, you don't like getting punched in the face, you maybe fights fall through, you fall out with your manager. There could be a variety of reasons, and they just don't want to box, and maybe they're making decent money, and they don't want to go through it, and they're just happy enough living the way they are. So Frankie Gomez, wherever you are, like Frankie Gavin, I hope you're happy out there. Here we go. Charlie Burley TBE put in the chat. Shout out to the chat, by the way. Entertaining this podcast. How do you even throw a bit of money in? I've no fucking idea. Well, you know what? Charlie Burley's an action taker. Because Mia, messages later, he's thrown in $8.99. He went out there, Andy. He worked out the game plan, the blueprint, and he sent that money. That's what I like, an action taker like Charlie Burley. Thrown in that $8.99. He came, he saw, he conquered. He got the job done.
I'm trying to see where he put the super. Oh, there it's there. So if you just click on that wee dollar sign there, people, just keep adding that money towards us. So it helps pay our taxes, that type of thing. We don't want to fall foul the tax man.
The StreamYard, the SoundCloud, the Cedar, it
Spotify.
pays all those things. Yep, pays all those things that we do.
Keeps the lights on every Sunday afternoon as well.
Exactly. And I'll just add before we bring Rapping Rod Kelly in as well. This is episode 485. Just think, 15 episodes away from episode 500. If you've been listening for all those episodes, 485, we get people all the time saying they've listened from the very beginning and you haven't thrown in a super chat. Maybe now's the time to throw in a fiver with 15 episodes to go till episode 500. Let's
get the £500 for 500 episodes tonight.
Thousands of hours, Roberto, it must be now. Thousands
10 years worth of content. We're getting...
Yeah.
That's before you get to the Patreon stuff and all that type of.
You guys are all boosting up the man like YB's coin. You know what I mean? And you're not dropping a dime on the fucking Asylum.
That's just the Sunday night. That's the Sunday night stuff.
We need to get the NFTs out there,
Big time. We meta skeletons from now on in.
Non-fucking truth.
MB, I'm sure you can. Yeah, there's a PayPal. Actually, if you go to the YouTube main screen, there's a little PayPal in the corner. You can donate there. I'm only slagging you. There's Magic Mike phone in a 440. I'll tell you what. It's like win friends and influence people here, Rob. Like Napoleon Hill.
Baby. Let's get
There's
to that.
No rain in his porn.
For 50 and 0.
Magic Mike. Let's make
We're looking if we got a fucking 10 spot. But anyway, we'll get around on you someday.
Yes, Rob. Garcia Benavidez, we're talking here. Any views? What did you make of it?
Yeah, the fight kind of went the way I thought it would go. Unless I predicted totally different last week in a prediction league. I can't remember what happened yesterday. But I was going to say something there. What was it? No. Danny Garcia, the post-fight interview, I suppose, is what sticks out because, we have a laugh and a joke and a push and a pull here on the podcast. And, Danny Garcia is a guy who I've probably slated over the years for not living the life and that. But, he's giving an insight there last night. There's huge pressure on these fighters. Like, I was looking at an interview with Henrik Larsson, even Andy, where he was talking about playing with Ronaldinho and the pressure on his shoulders, and he still came to training every day with a smile on his face. But not everybody's given that. Like, and, maybe Garcia, like I said before last week when we were previewing this fight, that he was in the Mayweather sweepstakes firmly at one stage, like, and was going to be the heir to the 147 division with his, or certainly that was the expectation of him at one stage, like, to be in the mix for that. But then Spence and Bud came and kind of took over that spotlight, like, and his performances didn't live up to it. So, he's talking about living with that kind of pressure. So, it's a good pressure. I'd like to have mental health woes as it is, like, and I'm not a millionaire, that way. So, but it definitely is the pressure on me, I think. But we don't know. And like, we're talking about dedication to the sport and all that. Like, I wouldn't even. There's a time now, like I walk around at 92 kilos now, but there was a time I wouldn't even train for novices because it would have meant that I'd had to get down to 92 kilos. And I was like, I'm already fucking training a few times a week. I'm not going to start fucking getting up and running and all. Fuck that. So like, you know, we don't have the same insight into fighters' lives. All we do is call the shenanigans in the build up to the fight and the performances on the night, but we really don't know what they're going through behind the scenes. And you know, I know, as I said, we joke on the Asylum boy. I know as well that we do kind of get messages all the time from fellas that are struggling, like, and saying that they're listening to the pod or whatever. So nobody wants to go through the struggle. It's a rough time. Like, so I hope Danny Garcia comes out of it now and has some opportunities to get some more paydays, because he is an exciting fighter on his day. When he's saying that, I think he's probably been overhyped, you know, that way in his career. I don't think he's the fighter that a lot of people said he was going to be, but he can still be in big contests, and I'd like to see him come through the other side of that, because as well as that, he has to deal with fucking the outlet as well, Tony. Like, so it can't be easy for him. Like, so yeah, that's the kind of thing that's kind of sticking out to me the most. Certainly more than Benavidez's performance and the performance of the judge who had a 114. Fucking hell. So yeah, like, forgettable from Benavidez and predictable, I think, from him. Like, I don't think he's dedicated at all. And Danny Garcia, I don't know if that's a good measuring stick of where he is at 54 either. A win over Benavidez, I don't know what that says. Yeah, so yeah, but decent fight.
It was a decent fight, and people are starting to throw in the super chats here, like Billy O, Davey Man 100 thrown in 8.99. Shout out to you, Davey, a regular listener of ours. Also, Josh Hall thrown in 4.49. He says, was at the CBS fight last night. Refreshing to not have to travel to London to watch a good level of boxing. It was good to see Bean in the flesh. I tell you what, Bean's the least of your worries these days. I think.
Like with latex, you'd have you fucking smother them soon, by the
way.
Bean is tame, man. He's some wild men out there.
Flexing those muscles.
Bean will get the flexing on, don't you? Want to flex,
you'd rather take your chances with the guard, I think.
Take a chance in the DMs, man. He's just slide right in there and say, I want it, fuck you. What a barnacle.
Like a fucking AK-47, just...
Aye, on automatic day.
Yeah, absolutely, positively have to fucking stalk everyone in the room, except no substitutes. You know what I mean?
That's all I'm saying.
That's our friends in the north, is it no? You remember? You ever watch that show, Our Friends in the North, back in the day?
Oh, I think yeah.
It had Daniel Craig in it, and that guy, I forget his name, Michael something. And that's the exact same thing. He said, if you absolutely positively have to shag every woman in this bar, which one would it be?
I don't condone that kind of level of fucking misogyny, to be honest with you.
No, it's disgusting, mate.
No place for that in boxing these days.
No,
absolutely not. There's definitely a place for this, though. Liam Wynn throwing in a 237. Liam listening over on YouTube. He usually listens on Facebook. Shout out to him. I think I spot another one. It's only Alan Stacey. Alan Stacey throwing in a fiver as well. Shout out to you, regular listener is Alan. There's Take Aims as well.
This speech is doing wonders, Steve. Next time we're going to set it to a fucking charity music backdrop, you know, and just put a fucking kitten that we're going to put down or something on the screen like a fucking RSPCA ad. We're fucking rolling in it by the end of the night. Come on, the listeners.
Chelsea Taylor made an interesting point there. 100 in the chat and 4 likes. What you nutters playing at? Here's one for you then, Andy. How about from tonight till the end of August, if we get over 100 likes every week, every Sunday evening for the next, so tonight, then the next 4 weeks, that's 5 weeks, over 100 likes every week, you tight bastards, we'll do a little special Friday night lock-in in September. How about that, Andy? You up for that nice little call-in so the listeners can call in if we get over 100 likes the next 5 weeks?
We're all going to be hammered. Let's do that.
What's the fight going to be, though? Because remember, we did the live commentary. Was it Billy Joe Saunders against Matt Murray?
Oh, yeah.
It better not be anything like that, mate. I'm telling you right now. I
no.
can't cope with that again.
Well, I was just going to do a random Friday night lock-in, but actually, that's a good point. Yeah, we can maybe do it live during a fight on the Saturday, and then we can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. There you go. Andy's perfect from Andy. That's why he's here, the rock of the podcast. We'll do it live during a show in September. We'll converse closer to the time, but it's only based on the fact if we get over 100 likes every night. So tonight and all the nights during August, in September, we'll go live during a fight on this channel, one of the Saturday evenings, and you can join us and we'll watch it along together and a nice live fight. So there you go. The gauntlet's been thrown down, Andy. Do you reckon they're going to do it over 100 likes for the next 5 weeks?
I've got my doubts, mate. I've got my
I have
doubts.
too. Especially after the last time, it was a letdown, that wasn't
Yeah,
it?
it was to be honest with you. And you got to cajole people and that. People that listen to us are like degenerates. They're fucking sucked out looking for a handout. They're drunk. They're on everything else, mate. So they'll probably not even remember this fucking podcast tomorrow when they kick and sober up.
Let's see how much they want it. If you want it, come and get it. Over 100 likes. It's been thrown down. Let's see what you got. Anyway, let's move on to the undercard of the PBC Showtime. Praise be to Al
Steve.
Heyman. Yes.
Sad state of affairs, by the way, when fucking millionaire Adrian Broner probably got more money in his Cash App than we get in Super Chats. You know what I mean?
Exactly, old AB. I've never heard from AB in a while, but he's fighting Omar Figueroa soon. Anyway, talking to heavyweights, Adam Kovnacki is on Skid Row, Andy. Suffered another loss. Ali Demirezian, he definitely won the fight for me. There was no doubt whatsoever in my mind. Saw people earlier saying, I think Kovnacki maybe nicked it. No chance whatsoever. Kovnacki looks like a fighter who's finished. They were lauding him on the commentary, the fact he threw so many shots in the first 2 rounds. But he's absolutely bollocksed after that. He put it down to ring rust in the post-fight interview. He was cut over the left eye. He was pissing blood out of his mouth. His volume of punches was there, but they just weren't effective. Now, I mean, big Demirezian, he ain't a puncher himself, despite his KO ratio. But his jab was working nicely, his overhand right, snapping Kovnacki's head back time and time again. I'm going to bring up an interesting point for you, Andy. I know you remember this guy. I saw Demirezian, little fat Turkish heavyweight, podgy belly, hands held high. He reminded me of the late, great Sinan Samuel Sam.
Oh, no.
I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. You remember Sinan Samuel Sam?
Yeah, I vaguely remember him,
Fought Danny Williams.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah. Kovnacki, though, Andy, man, he's been exciting. He brings out the fans, but I think he's done. I think he's taking too many shots now.
Yeah, as I mentioned it last week, I wasn't too over enamoured with the fight, in all honesty. Kovnacki, what can you say, mate? He has at this point taken a fair bit of damage, I would think. And you're probably right enough from what you're saying. That's what before last night, he got badly knocked out against Hellenius twice. But in kind of like real shoot-ups and that as well. So, look, I'd always mentioned that Demirezian was possibly like European level type fighter, and he was a top amateur in that as well. Bearing with some of the kind of bigger names or the top names. I mean, bearing with Mediocre, for example, knocked him out. I keep bearing with Madrimov and that as well. So he's seasoned enough. As you mentioned, he's decent enough jab. That's maybe why he needed to kind of win the fight and that. But it's a trade fight for me. That's all it was. I like to see Demirezian possibly come back to Europe, even unless if he's going to get an opportunity over there. I don't see what's going to be suitable for him. Else he's going to be fighting big nips, for example. But I like to see him kind of come back to Europe, maybe make a run at the European title, which I think is still held by Joe Joyce. Obviously, that fight's not going to happen in that, but I can maybe see Joyce maybe even vacating that title soon. So there's maybe a potential there for him to maybe pick up that belt sometime in the future.
Shout out to Craig Longdon. He's thrown in an $8.99. Good lad, Craig. Thank you very much to you. MB says, yeah, he looked shocked. Credit to him. I thought that fight was very entertaining last night. It was an entertaining fight. He's always been in entertaining fights, but he just takes too many shots. Demirezian, he has a nice underrated jab, nice tempo about him. He almost matched Kovnacki for activity. And one thing I will say, the matchmaker over at Tom Brown Promotions, we shit on this card last week, but it was actually a pretty competitive card. He knows how to blend the styles. They're good at what they do. The mesh of fighters often works. We shit on it a little bit, but I think it actually worked out quite well. On to the third fight there, just before we bring on our guest who has
Sorry,
joined
Steve,
us.
I was going to ask,
Yes.
was it Tom Brown that got quoted in that lawsuit for the WBA thing? Remember it was mentioned last week about the ranking situation?
Oh, was he really? Right.
I can't mind. I think you can double check that, but I'll let you get on to Rob there.
Yeah, he's the proxy promoter. Yumi Yappy asked earlier about Rob Tebbett, so I thought, well, why not get Rob Tebbett on the call himself, and we'll ask him himself whatever the question was, which I've forgotten. But anyway, Rob, good evening on Sunday. How are you keeping?
Hi, Steve. I'm good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, keeping well, actually. We're just talking about this Showtime card. I know you were at the Billingsmith card last night, but did you catch any of Garcia, Benavidez, Kovnacki, Demirezian by any chance?
I watched a little bit of it. I was kind of up to my eyeballs in editing. I watched some of the Danny Garcia, Jose Benavidez fight. I missed the Demirezian Kovnacki fight. I was over with Chris Billingsmith after the fight and just kind of missed that. I will go back and watch that today, but I saw little bits and pieces of Danny Garcia versus Jose Benavidez for the outgrown the 140 division title or whatever they were boxing for. Such a strange fight at 154, but I didn't really catch an awful lot of the Showtime card, if I'm honest.
Just on a wider point, what about Garcia's future prospects at 154? A bit of sound effects thrown in there. I'm a fan of that, and by the way. Danny Garcia at 154, maybe Tony Harrison next, Thurman. What would you prefer?
Yeah, I mean, obviously PBC had kind of the 147 pound division, 154 pound divisions pretty much locked down with their big names. It is obviously, I say a surprise. I mean, it's not as, I don't think he was the same fighter at 147 as he was at 140, which I think a lot of people would probably agree with. At 154, I mean, you put him in with I know he's moved up to middleweight, but when Jarrett Hurd was at 154, you think about him being in with somebody like Danny Garcia, and the height and weight disparities would be massive. But yeah, Tony Harrison, I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense. Tony Harrison obviously had that good win against Sergio Garcia. I thought he boxed really well that night. It's a fight where Tony Harrison's a slick, smooth boxer. He's not really the type of fighter to use his superior height and weight and lean on Garcia or anything like that. But I mean, Garcia sells. 154 pound division's a very good division with a lot of good fighters. But where's the big names? There's not that it doesn't have the same clamour and the same star factor as the 147 pound division. And Danny Garcia is. I had this conversation with somebody last night where, since the PBC launch has happened a few years back, I think 7 years ago, whenever it was, Danny Garcia has been a real mainstay of their offerings. He's been active, he's been available to fight in, kind of 2 times a year, really, at least, generally speaking. And, he's been a real mainstay of the PBC stable, and he's built a good following. He does good numbers at the Barclays. He's boxed in big fights against big names. So him going up to 154 kind of gives you guys like your Sebastian Fundoras. I mean, that would be a crazy, talk about height and weight disparities between them, and that would be enormous. But Fundora, I mean, Lubin, I know Lubin had a real tough time out last night against Fundora. I don't really know what he's going to do. Or a Tony Harrison. Then all of a sudden you've got a marketable name to throw those guys in, and it makes a lot of business sense. Does it make a lot of boxing sense? I'm not so sure. As I said, I don't think he was ever really the same fighter at 147 as he was at 140, and I think he'll be even less effective up at 154. Having said that, I think he boxed well from the pockets of what I saw last night. But Jose Benavidez, again, he's a 140, then a 147. And I mean, I know he was big on the night. It's 172. I think I saw somebody say he was in the ring, but he's not a natural 154. So it's tough to see Danny Garcia picking up any titles there. But he's got a good chin, he's got solid fundamentals, and he's marketable. So I think he'll be involved in some good fights up there that do good business for PBC.
Well said. Stick with us there, Rob. We'll bring you on Billingsmith in a minute. Just before we do so, Ricky Graville, MTK Enforcer, has thrown in 449. Shout out to you, Richard. Thank you very much. Also, Craig London's followed up on his super chat entry. He said, sent a few bob over. I drop in and out listening to your show. And hey, if $8.99 helps you guys out with production, it's money well spent. Keep it going, lads. I can't promise the production, but it'll maybe buy some beer, a few hookers, and maybe a bit of Coke, if that's indeed what you are interested in. Any questions for Rob? Anybody? Throw them in the chat and I'll ask them to him. Andy, going down the Showtime card there, we have, you know what? Let's be honest about it. This Bartholomew against Russell fight, we weren't too happy about it last week. There's no doubt about it. It was an absolutely terrible stoppage. It was surprisingly competitive up to that point. Bartholomew had little pockets of success. He got dropped with the right hook in the round 6. He definitely hurt Russell beforehand. Bartholomew was shook up, I think, got up, stood in front of the referee, looked him straight in the eyes, was ready to continue, and the referee stopped it. He said no more. Is there any justification for that stoppage? Because it was a very strange ending for Russell.
Mate, the only justification I can think of is, I think back to when I spoke to Howard Foster, and I said to him, why did you stop George Groves against Carol Froch? And he says his eyes were gone. Now, unless Bartholomew's eyes were swimming in the back of his head, there's no way that fight should have been stopped, in my opinion. It was he got dropped. It was a fantastic leaping right hook, to be fair with you. And I just think the way he went down, especially like in real time, it looked like he went down in sections. But if you look at it on the slow motion, he tried to kind of like stagger his fall, try to kind of stop himself, try to break his fall. Maybe he got up, maybe his legs were slightly stiff. I don't know. He was up at the count of 5 or 6. He walked to the referee upon instruction. And I don't think the referee said anything more to him or asked him any further questions. Step to the side, come back to me type of thing that they do out in LA. Obviously, they do in New York anyway. And he's waved the fight off. Again, unless his eyes told a completely different story, which never lie to me, then the referee's meant to have the best seat in the house. And if that's the only thing, it's the only answer I've got, mate. Because to me, at least, how many fights have we watched over the years? How many fights, like Muhammad, for example, Matthew Sad Muhammad, come through absolutely fucking fires of hell to try and win a fight. That was nowhere near as bad as that. Some of the fights that Muhammad was in. So
that knockdown was Matthew Saad Muhammad just getting warmed up against Richie Cates.
You're right, mate. It was just I don't know. I honestly I don't know. That's all I can think of. He's had him walk to him. He's answered that instruction, and then the referee's looked at him for maybe about a couple of seconds, dead in the eye, waved it off. Maybe he just didn't have eye contact. Maybe the eyes were darting over the place. Maybe, I don't know. It's the only suggestion that I've got, because it looked like to me he could have continued. Whether I wanted him to continue is another matter, mind you, because I'm not a big fan of his. I just thought the speed and aggression for Russell was far better. Look for the straight shots. Both worked the body, but I just thought Russell was far quicker. Seemed to be having the final say in most of the exchanges, at least. It got a bit kind of dirty at times, but you expect that with a kind of Bartholomew fight. But yeah, as I say, I just think maybe just the manner in which he went down, maybe the legs maybe locked up a wee bit after he got up. Maybe he got up too quick. Maybe the eyes just weren't kind of telling the full story, and the referee just waved it off. Other than that, I thought the stoppage was poor. Ozzy was saying to me that he maybe deserves a rematch. Yeah, I suppose that's a fair thing to do, but whether I want to see it again, that's another matter, to be fair. But what I want and what I get is a totally different thing at the end of the day. So,
oh yeah, I think they'll definitely take the rematch. To be honest,
yeah.
I was expecting now. Last week, I was expecting the old version of Boring Rancid to turn up, but then I wondered during the week whether this might happen. Bartholomew slowed down in his career, has become more stationary, and I thought to myself, maybe the matchmakers actually got this right here. Bartholomew might be that slow of foot now that he might have to shed this dire kind of stick and move, jab and grab style that he showed before and stand in range a little bit more. And he actually did that. And the scrap with Russell, it was surprisingly exciting early on. As I said in the first round, he definitely hurt Russell with a right hand. He was definitely going against the ropes. He switched stances, slowed the pace down. Those winging shots from Bartholomew, it was just head down, throwing shots to head and body like crazy. Russell, I think he struggled a little bit at times to temper his aggression. He's definitely a face-forward fighter. We've seen him before with the headbutts and there. He's also there to be hit as well, Andy. He got tagged in the first round. I'm looking forward to seeing him. I think he's going to be a fun fighter. If he fights more often than his brother, that'll be a bonus for anybody. He's going to get hurt at some point. He's going to cause headbutts. He's going to go down. He's going to hurt people as well. But he has a seek and destroy attitude that makes me want to see Gary Antoine Russell fight again.
He does seem to kind of get busy on the inside when it does get rough and it gets tangled up. He does seem to kind of like, he'll go to dirty places where if he needs to. You're right enough what you're saying, though. The jab was pretty good. But you're saying he got hurt, or at least it seemed he got visibly wobbled a wee bit in the latter half of that first round. But I also think maybe Russell hurt Bartholomew a little bit in that first round as well, and they kind of come back at it. Mm-hmm. So it was good, as I say. And as I say, round two, you see that aggression and the speed, the straight shots from Russell. And that I just thought again he was just having the final say. But there was moments where it was getting tangled, kind of dirty on the inside, tying up. But the right hook was something special, to be fair. Like, as you say, if his activity is going to be far better than his brothers, then so be it. But I can see this fight getting run back again. Actually, probably do some filler for another Showtime card somewhere down the line and that. But as I say, they can take their time when they want to announce it. Like, so I don't really want to see it again.
Yeah, no, I think the PBC will definitely do that again. It makes sense from their point of view. Third fight on a Showtime card in the future, Russell getting revenge. There's a storyline. Just makes sense for them, even though I don't want to see it either. I don't know how much you saw of this fight, Bartholomew Russell, Rob, but it was great to see Orlando Cuellar in the corner, raging at the end, screaming into the Showtime mic. Glenn Johnson's old trainer took me back to the early 2000s and the Glenn Johnson days with Orlando Cuellar in Bartholomew's corner. Cuellar was absolutely right, though. This stoppage was just ridiculous. The referee, Shada Murder, I think you call him. He's usually a decent referee, but he's had a stinker here, Rob, stopping this.
Yeah, again, it was in a fight that I caught an awful lot of, but I did see pockets of it, and I definitely saw the stoppage. I was actually watching it with Ben Faruqi. Shout out Ben Faruqi every time.
Shout out Ben, yeah.
And we were watching it together, and he sort of said to me, "Bro, look at this stoppage." And then I've kind of looked over at it, and we watched it back, and I was perplexed by it, just as you guys were. I think that Bartholomew, it wasn't a heavy knockdown. It was definitely a legitimate knockdown. The shot caught him quite high on the head, and he kind of, as Andy mentioned, he kind of went down in stages a little bit, kind of trying to break his fall. But Yeah, I mean, he seemed to adhere to the referee's instructions. It was bizarre. I mean, knockdowns like that are very, very common in the sport, as we know, and it wasn't anything that it wasn't anything out of the ordinary to see somebody drop by a shot like that. And he seemed to, as I say, respond well to the referee's instructions. And yeah, I mean, I think the reaction of the corner and the reaction of the fans in the arena really told the story as well. Wouldn't surprise me as well to see the fight get run back. I think it's a good little kind of gut check. I wouldn't say reality check. It sounds a little bit harsh to say that of Gary Antoine Russell, but he's a good fighter. I think his last fight as well was a very kind of kind stoppage against Victor Postol in the final round. I felt like that was very premature as well. But I feel like he's been, built and given a lot of hype. I was speaking to some Americans on Twitter yesterday, and they were talking about, I don't see who at 140 could beat him. And I think that would just maybe slow people down on that way of thinking. Barthélemy, obviously a good fighter, but we know him as a spoiler and somebody very negative, and he's not always in very good fights, to say the least. And he was able to get to Gary Antoine Russell and hurt him. And you think about some of the guys that they've got over there on, even at 140 in the PBC, Subriel Matias, obviously the main one that I kind of think about when I think of their 140 offerings, big puncher, high work rate. You'd expect him to give Gary Antoine Russell some problems if Barthélemy is able to kind of buzz him and get to him and be in a competitive fight. I felt like the Gary Antoine Russell Barthélemy fight would have been a bit of a showcase for Gary Antoine Russell, and so kind of him to go out there and make a little bit of a statement and lay down a marker. 140 is starting to open up with Josh Taylor vacating the IBF and the WBA. I believe Jeremias Ponce, who of course know over here for beating Lewis Ritson, is going to be boxing Subriel Matias. I think that's a really good fight. But I think it maybe will just slow people down on Gary Antoine Russell, which is fine. He's still very early in his career. If he can go and kind of put on a much better performance against Barthélemy next time out, if they do the rematch, and then just kind of take a few more opportunities to develop and then get up into title contention, I think it may not be the worst thing for his career in the long run to have something like this happen at this stage. But yeah, awful stoppage. And it's kind of moments like this where you really want to hear from the referees. You really want to hear, well, okay, why did you do that? What was the reasoning behind that? They have the best seat in the house. He's looking into his eyes. Was it because his eyes were gone? Was it because of this? Because it certainly didn't seem like that from our vantage point. But yeah, I guess we'll never know.
Yeah, I think the New York Commission said they were going to speak to him first and then they would maybe give him the opportunity. He looked straight in Barthélemy's eyes, so I imagine his line of defence would be, I looked at him, his eyes were wobbling all over the place. I didn't like what I saw, but he looked fine from what I could see. He was responsive. He was standing up straight. He wasn't wobbly-legged. I've seen fighters go on a lot further than that. So anyway, Mr. Murder will maybe give his point of view in the future. Just before we shout out to the chat, they've thrown in a few questions here. Mark Stanton's asking where Emperor Michael is. The lesser spotted James Apollo Jackson. I haven't seen him since he had his scrap with Porky. Chelsea Taylor asked Rob who's creepier with women, Cassius or Flexen. We're coming to that on Bellew of the Week, so I don't want to steal anybody's thunder there. Here's one for you, Rob. Liam Davis says, tell Rob to stop pulling Hearn up on his consistent lies. Far from me to ever accuse Eddie of any consistent lies. Rob, is there any pull-ups coming soon?
Well, I mean, give me a chance. I have only been back in business for 6 days, and I haven't seen Eddie for 8 months. I think the last time I saw him was Chisora Park 2 in December. But yeah, I haven't seen Eddie in a while. I will be seeing him this week in Sheffield, so stay tuned for that. I'm sure he's looking forward to seeing me as much as I'm looking forward to seeing him. But yeah, I mean, check out ID Boxing for interviews with her and coming this week from Sheffield.
Check out ID Boxing. Check out Porky's Corner. Chelsea Taylor says, does Tebbett listen to Porky's Corner? Are you familiar with the work of the eponymous Russell Porky Russ Hartley?
Yeah, I am. It's quite an interesting one, really, because there's a few years ago where Porky had kind of acquired my phone number from somebody, and he used to shoot me messages. And do you know what? He was very, very supportive, and I would kind of occasionally respond and stuff. I don't really know Porky, and I know he's quite a volatile character, but I would still kind of engage and respond to some messages. And then it kind of became a little bit too much, a little bit kind of like streams and streams of messages of what I should be doing and this, that, and the other. And, I didn't always have time to get back to him. I'm quite busy. But yeah, I kind of ended up, it kind of went cold on my end, I suppose. And then all of a sudden, people would send me clips of, less than nice things that he would say about me, which are direct, contradictions of messages he would send and voice notes he would send when I was replying to him. So I think, I don't know, if Porky needs a little bit of love, I'm more than happy to come and give him a cuddle if that makes him feel better. But I mean, yeah, I'm familiar with his work and also familiar with the fact that he maybe not be my biggest fan anymore, because it was kind of one of them, dear Stan, I wrote you, but you still ain't calling type of situations. But yeah, shout out Porky Ross. Anybody who's making boxing content has my respect, even if they think I'm a wanker.
Absolutely, we love Russ here, and if you're trying to get that cuddle, I'd get it sooner rather than later, because there's not much to cuddle of Porky these days, is all I'll say. Also, Alan Stacey threw in a question. He said, what's the weirdest request Rob has had from a promoter? Before you answer that, Rob, you can sort of muse on that one. I'll give a shout out to the chat while you think of that question from Alan Stacey. What's the weirdest request Rob has had from a promoter? And shout out to Alan himself. He's thrown in a super chat to us. Shout out to Ray Reardon. Chelsea Taylor's there as well. Jim McDonald Boxing is here as well as always. Dinch is in the chat. Ricky Graville, Johnny Horsecock Nelson, Sad Ken is with us. Josh Ford as well, who subscribed this week on YouTube. Shout out to him. Don't forget to hit that like button, by the way. Over 100 likes is required if you want the live pod. Don't bother if you don't. Mark Stanton, shout out to Take Ames, top boxing interviewer. Rob knows all about Ames. Ames is one of the best in the business. Big A as well is here with us. Liam Davis, Yumi Yappy. Harvey Price Boxing returns. Just a couple more in the chat, and we'll go back to Alan's question. Jason Chahal, Craig Longdon, and last but by no means least, Ben Russell and MB as well is with us. And Ronnie Hussein, the Hussein Clone Posse. Yes, lads. Shout out to you, Ronnie. Right. Anything on this? Have you ruminated on this question, Rob, Alan, Stacey? What's the weirdest request Rob has had from a promoter?
I don't know. I don't think I've had any weird requests. So I've had, it's a kind of well-known thing that there, been times where I've been asked to not ask certain questions or things like that, or those tend to happen sometimes. Kind of once every, I don't know, probably maybe once every 3 to 6 months, somebody will say, we prefer not to talk about this because it's a delicate part of negotiations, or there's a negative spin on the story or something like that. But as far as kind of weird requests from promoters, I'm not really too sure if I've had any weird ones. I'm not really, I don't know. I don't really have much past the kind of, hi, are you available for an interview relationship with any of the promoters, really. So I haven't really had many weird requests. Not that jump out to me straight away, that's for sure. But yeah, just to kind of go back to what you were saying, Steve, yeah, Take Ames, big up Take Ames. Now the big man at Boxing Social. He was actually in our hotel with us until, I don't know what time he went home, because I ended up going, as I mentioned earlier, going over to see Chris Billingsmith at about 5, I think, or 3:30 in the morning. And then Ames was with myself, Andy and Ben, kind of uploading, working away and what have you, until the early hours. So yeah, shout out Take Ames. But yeah, as far as kind of weird requests, I don't think I've had weird requests from promoters.
Shout out to Benjamin Franklin in the chat. Big up the Second Amendment. Absolutely, Benjamin. We can get on board with that. I'm not sure what it is, but I'm sure it's something well worthwhile. Andy, let's move on to Chris Billingsmith against Isaac Chamberlain. Rob was there. We'll go on to him shortly. We watched it from the comfort of our own home before Josh Kelly went in against Lucas Bastida. I was pleasantly surprised. I thought it would be a decent scrap, a grinding scrap. It certainly was. Chamberlain with the quality just wasn't able to sustain it. Chris Billingsmith looks permanently knackered every fight from about round 2, but he just keeps on going. I think Chamberlain's inactivity caught up on him in the end, Andy.
Yeah, it was quite a busy opener. Both trading heavy leather. I said last week I was expecting me, but kind of more a kind of boring fight, but it was absolutely not. It was fantastic, grueling. A lot of inside work. Chamberlain had some good success late in round 2, I believe. I think Billingsmith caught my right hand. It really looked like it really bothered Chamberlain at that point. But as you say, probably about round 4, round 5, I think the pace had noticeably slowed, especially after going hammer and tong for what it did the first 3 rounds. I just thought it would become a wee bit kind of more kind of close quarter battles, hard slog. Both showing battle wounds, looking gassed. And I really did think actually that the stoppage was on the cards, but then it just seemed to kind of like fall into kind of place that the referee, I thought, did a fantastic job. He wasn't overly fussy, let the guys fight it out, let them work on the inside. So that was, I like to obviously give refs kind of shout out for that, because you see it when referees just, they just don't like any inside fighting, and they kind of like stop it far too soon. So that was good to see. I noticed obviously round 10, I think it was round 10, that Chamberlain's eye was very badly swollen. I've just since realised or been told that he's got a broken orbital bone and he's still in hospital. I think he tweeted that out actually as well. But I think the main thing for me really was I felt throughout the fight, even when they were exchanging shots, I thought Billingsmith came across the more stronger fighter, even though he did look gassed, if that makes sense as such. I just think he was having a lot of the kind of final says in that as well. But fair play to Chamberlain as well. He played his part. He knew he was behind. His corner told him he was behind, and he had to go for it. But again, I thought Billingsmith was definitely the winner of the fight. And good to see fights getting taken on to the kind of small towns, shall we say, because you do get a kind of good atmosphere with towns who's got a fighter who don't get a lot of boxing. And this wasn't a kind of a kind of like come up fight, whatever. This was a European Commonwealth title fight, so it was good to see something at stake basically. So hopefully they take him back there. I don't know, Rob will be able to tell us how many were actually in attendance. I think it's like about 3,500, 4,000 capacity possibly. So it's a start at least, as he says. Beats people having to go away to London, I suppose, having to watch fights. So it's good to see boxing down by the seaside again for a change.
Shout out to Des, he's in the chat as always. I was communicating with Des last night. Being unfit at the championship rounds cost Isaac. If he'd been fit, I think he'd have done enough. Then again, if he'd been fit over 12, they wouldn't have called him. Absolutely, Des. Exactly. I completely agree with that. Rob Tebbett, no less, you were at the show last night. We had a question come in a few weeks ago from one of the Patreon subscribers about going back to small halls. The big fight atmosphere doesn't always have to be in half-empty arenas. Last night, the atmosphere looked class on the TV. Was it as good in the person as it looked on Boxer Sky?
Yeah, I mean, it's important to caveat that I haven't been at a show since December. So kind of being in Bournemouth for Chris Billingsmith versus Isaac Chamberlain might as well have been at the MGM ground for Mayweather Pacquiao for me. So I really enjoyed the atmosphere. It was vociferous support in there for Chris Billingsmith. Credit to Isaac Chamberlain for taking the fight. I do have to slightly disagree with the chat, the message that just came up about if Isaac had been fit, they wouldn't have called him. It was actually Chris Billingsmith who took the fight on shorter notice. Obviously, Isaac Chamberlain has not been as active. I think he'd boxed 6 rounds in the previous 3 years. And in that period of time, Chris Billingsmith had shared the ring with Tommy McCarthy twice, Vasili Duxar, Dylan Brejon, kind of like fringe European level fighters. So he had the activity, but he also only had 5.5 weeks in camp. Obviously boxed semi-recently anyway against Tommy McCarthy earlier this year. But I think that kind of may have balanced it out somewhat. I think more than anything, it was just that experience. Isaac Chamberlain had never boxed 12 rounds before. Both looked tired after a few rounds. I felt like the pace was very, very quick from the outset, which, as I understand it, at least wasn't necessarily the game plan from Shane McGuigan and Chris Billingsmith. I think a lot of damage was done to Isaac Chamberlain early in the fight. I called him earlier, and he was in a hospital. Said he had a broken orbital bone. He broke it in the 3rd round, which is subsequently tweeted about. He's having surgery in a couple of days back in London. And then hopefully it's not going to keep him out for too long, because I feel that the 12 rounds that he boxed against Chris Billingsmith last night at a very good pace, behind enemy lines in Bournemouth, in that atmosphere, will do him the world of good. Isaac Chamberlain, I think Chris Billingsmith would be the first to admit that Isaac Chamberlain is the slicker fighter, the more naturally talented fighter. But what Chris Billingsmith has is he's very gritty, determined, works exceptionally hard in the gym. He's always in. He has a good base level of fitness. So while he took it on short notice, he doesn't balloon up in between camps and what have you. So I feel that those 12 rounds for Isaac Chamberlain last night will be invaluable to him in the future, provided he's not out too long and he's not looking at a layoff, because he showed plenty of heart to stay in there. And it's heart that we all knew he had. He boxed that brilliant fight against Wadi Camacho down at York Hall a few years ago, where he dislocated his shoulder, I think, in the 3rd round of that fight. And they had to pop it back into his socket in between rounds of that fight. And he couldn't throw the right hand until, I think, 8, 9 maybe of a 10 rounder, and he really had to grit that one out essentially with one hand. He has since had shoulder surgery, I think, a couple of times on it, so he's not been as active in recent years as he would have liked to. But last night will do him the world of good. 12 rounds of Chris Billingsmith in that atmosphere is worth 10 first-round stoppage wins over Dylan Prazovic, is of course who he boxed last time out. So look, I spoke to Ben Shalom last night. I know he's done some other interviews as well where he said that I think the plan for Isaac Chamberlain, provided he's not out for too long, would be to match him with the winner of Dion Juma versus Mikhail Lawal for the British title. I think that's about right. It goes to prove that taking these opportunities and going to a Bournemouth as the away fighter and giving a good account of yourself, it doesn't necessarily mean that your stock drops in a defeat. I know he's lost previously to Lawrence Okoli, but in this kind of modern world of protecting the O and wanting to be unbeaten and all of that, you don't always have to win to enhance your reputation. And I feel like Isaac Chamberlain, certainly for me, he went significantly up in my estimations. I felt like, just to echo what Andy said, I felt the referee was fantastic. One of my favourite fights is Vasili Zhirov versus James Toney, where it's a lot of inside fighting at cruiserweight. You kind of got one guy pushing the other guy against the ropes and him doing a lot of good work with his back against the ropes. I feel like Chamberlain's good shot, which is a shot that I know that Chris Billingsmith and Shane McGugan were very aware of, is the left hook to the body. I felt like Chris Billingsmith neutralised that shot well by countering with the left hook to the head, which basically saw Chamberlain put that shot back in his pocket for a few rounds in the middle rounds. And then obviously the late rounds were where it got really tough. And that was always going to be the case, with Chamberlain not having that season and over the last couple of years, while Billingsmith has been active against good level of opposition, I felt that was where the fight was ultimately going to be won and lost. But huge credit to Isaac Chamberlain and, of course, to Chris Billingsmith. Just to touch on what Andy said there about the tickets, I believe there was 3,500 to 4,000 in there, depending on who you listen to. Obviously, the promoter will tell you that there's 4,000, but there didn't seem to be at least any empty seats in the house, and it was a really good atmosphere. Lee Cutler was obviously a Bournemouth boy, boxed on the last fight of the YouTube stream, I believe, and I remember him coming out, I think at about 6 o'clock, and the roar from the crowd, and I was thinking, oh God, there's a fight in the crowd, so I'm turning around where it is, and then it was actually Lee Cutler, and stuff like that's great, because 3,500 at a place like the Vic, or I was at the Boxer Show in Coventry a few weeks ago where you had Dylan Chima, Adam Azim, and you've got a packed out venue. It's not a sexy venue like the O2 or Wembley Arena or the Copper Box or anything like that. But I think it's better to have 3,500, 4,000 in a place like that. That sounds great, that looks great, that has a little storyline. It's far, far better than having 5,000 at the O2 and you've got the whole top tier curtained off, which is what happened at Chisora Palette 2 a couple of weeks ago. So I think shows like that are great for the sport. I think speaking to the guys from Sky this week, I think they all had a great time out there. It's obviously a lovely scenic place. The weigh-in and the workout press conference were all on the beach. So they played into what Bournemouth is really about. And then the main event delivered. I thought it was, in my opinion, the best fight that we've seen this year on Sky Sports. I can't think of many other better fights on Sky Sports this year. I think Andy Scott, who works for Sky, tweeted out that this would be British Fight of the Year if it wasn't for Wood Conlon kind of ruining it for everybody. It was obviously a great fight on the zone. So, yeah, I thought it was a big success, and Sky have kind of gone out to get these Ben Whittaker, Fraser Clark, Caroline Dubois, the Azims, signing all of these prospects. But you need headliners, you need people to top these bills to get your prospects out. And in somebody like Chris Billingsmith, he's not a wildly expensive main event guy, so you're gonna be able to get your amateurs, your debutants, and your young prospects out on the undercard of these shows. And that's how you build your fighters. So I think it was a really successful week for Sky. Chris obviously was on a one-fight deal with Sky. He now goes back into the open market, and I think it's probably safe to assume that his next fight will probably be back down there. I think he wants to box for a world title at the Vitality Stadium in Bournemouth. He's a big Bournemouth fan. There's quite a lot of Bournemouth footballers there last night watching him fight. And if they can kind of take the next show down to Bournemouth in November, December is sort of the time that they're talking about, and they can do a different. I'm not massively well versed in events or venues rather in Bournemouth, but if they can do another 4,000, or if they can take it somewhere else, I don't know if there is a place where they can do 5,000 or 6,000, and they can start building some momentum behind him. And then if he does fight for a world title, he could maybe do it at Bournemouth. Obviously, if the money's there to make that happen. I know Jai Opataya, of course, the new IBF and Ring Magazine champion who beat Myris Bradis. his promoter was around to discuss potential fights for Richard Riakporhe and Chris Billingsmith. Hearing on the grapevine that Riakporhe versus Ilunga Makabu, the WBC champion, is very much in the works and being talked about. So with Opataya having a double broken jaw in that win over Myris Bradis, I'm not sure when he's going to be back in the ring. Mateus Masternak I can't remember who he's boxing, but he's boxing a final eliminator. And Opataya was the mandatory for Bradis. So if you're Billingsmith, you're not going to get a mandatory anytime soon because that's going to be taken up by Masternak's fight or the winner of Masternak's fight. But you could easily get a voluntary. If the money's there and let's say Opataya comes back towards the end of the year and Billingsmith boxed then and then they can do that fight in the summer next year in Bournemouth, then that's a great option for him. If not, and Richard Riakporhe goes and boxes Ilunga Makabu and beats him, which I think he will. I think Makabu's there for the taking. I thought he lost.
I think he'll stop Makabu, I do.
Yeah, I think he lost the rematch to Taviso Machunu. I didn't think it was as much of a daylight robbery as some thought, but I did think that Machunu won the fight and deserved to get the decision. But, you box on a Don King show, then yeah. But then Riakporhe beats Makabu, and then all of a sudden you've got that Riakporhe-Billingsmith rematch for the WBC. And we've got a good crop of cruiserweights over here. It only takes sort of one of them to pick up a world title and, 2 or 3 of them to be ranked. You've got Jack Massey, who's ranked. There's another one. You've got Juma and Lawal. If they get a win and box Chamberlain, then, the winner of that will probably pick up some kind of trinket, which would allow them to be ranked. And then all of a sudden, you've got 3 or 4 domestic world title fights that are kind of feasible. And obviously, we know governing bodies and mandatories and what have you have a way of getting in the way. But if those fights are big enough and you can take them to an arena where you can sell some tickets and push it on Sky, then, as we all know, the governing bodies will do what works best for their pockets. So I think it's a good time to be a domestic cruiserweight in this country, and I expect to see some world title fights for some of our guys in the near future.
Absolutely, hope so too. Some good points made there. I'm a Riakporhe fan, as regular listeners will know. I think he'll knock out Makabu and hopefully he'll knock Don King out the game. Shout out to the old fucker Don King. We got a copyright strike this week because of him on YouTube. We'll outlast you, Don. We'll outlast you. Isaac Chamberlain's shoulder as well was an interesting point that Rob made there. That's got to be playing on his mind, especially in a hard grueling fight like that. As you'll know, my flourishing boxing career was cut short by a shoulder injury. Dean Francis, he suffered from some shoulder injuries throughout his whole career. Really talented light heavyweight from Bristol. Once he dislocated it once, even after surgery, it was never the same again. So that's bound to be something that was weighing on his mind. Rapping Rob Kelly's back with us, thank God. Yeah. Rob Tebbert was mentioning there, Rob, about the James Toney Vasili Zhirov fight. Manny Stewart on the commentary, a fight that we all loved. Well, forget about that, Rob. I'm going to bring you thudding back down to earth again with MB's comment here. What's this Mick Hennessy thing going on with Sky Sports? Let me tell you, Rob. Last night, I was on with Cork's finest, John O'Donovan, a man you know well. We've been on the pod with him before. He was on the Nuthouse chat, and we were talking about Fat Mick. He was ringside, looking resplendent in his white shirt, looked like he'd thrown red socks into the washing machine. I like Mick. I think he's had a go. It hasn't quite worked out for him. Linking up with Ben Shalom, as we all love, bit of money, bit of Sky, Bean likes him. This could be the perfect thing for Mick. Just jumping in behind the scenes, doing his thing and working with Sky.
Well, it's very difficult for Mick to jump in behind the scenes anywhere, I think. But listen, if there's money in the game, I might have a new venture for Mick, because I had to jump off the pod there, as you know, for a few minutes because I had to go pick my missus up. So I was about 10 minutes late, left her outside Aldi. And she's just after coming into the sitting room and telling me that she was that mad in the shower that she's thinking about quitting her job and going into MMA so she can take out that anger on somebody because I left her standing outside Aldi for the podcast. And now she wants somebody to contact an online hacker to hack the podcast to bring it down. So Big Mick, if you're interested in jumping on the MMA train, a lot of similarities between my wife and Obanov, and that they're both capable of bludgeoning their older husband to death.
Raging Mrs. Kelly on a Sunday night.
Yeah, the raging bull of the Pampas.
It takes a bit of time, Rob. But I've been doing it 15 years and that, so she's finally understood, So
yeah, where does she be more understanding there?
I know. You need to bend her. She'll bend at some point. You know what I mean?
Left outside Andy for the podcast. Unbelievable. Oh, fuck's sake. Can you hear that?
She's raging. I heard a female talking about
I shouldn't have to put up with that, she said.
What would it take to kind of say sorry?
Look, I said sorry, but she's laughing now. She's all right. She's all right. Close that door on the way out. Good woman.
you'll sleep with a cold shoulder tonight, I can guarantee you that, mate.
Oh, that's the one eye opener. That one is. Sorry, Steve. Where were we there before we Mrs. Selfishly hijacked the fucking Sunday night
Remember?
podcast?
Is this what boxing's coming to?
Listen, you
Oh,
better
there's
get
no
some super
content this
chats
week.
in. You better get some super chats in there. I couldn't need a divorce lawyer by the time this one is over.
We want a refund at this rate.
What are we talking about? Big
Billingsmith and Chamberlain. Did you watch it on a Saturday night?
I did, and it was a very entertaining scrap. I thought it might be a bit of a stinker. Billingsmith, I like him. I'm starting to want to him. I think he's a marketable guy, and I know Eddie spoke about letting him go. I think it's a bit of a, to quote one of Eddie's old arch nemesis, is Leonard Ellerby. Sometimes you got to pay him what they weigh, but I think his stock has gone up since he's gone over to all-round good guy Ben Shalom on Boxer, and they have a bit of a domestic star in the making there. But I think he has his limitations, and he has the kind of look of a guy that's going to be kind of spectacularly, not exposed, but, you know, you'll have, like, he'll go on a run and then he'll meet somebody with real quality and get just fucking blasted. Like, but McGuigan's doing good work with him. I thought Chamberlain probably needed another fight before this, like, to really make it a good contest. The eye didn't help, but he hung in there, and Billingsmith fought it. He's a bit of a master of the dark arts as well, Billingsmith. Like, he was leaning on him there, pushing his elbow into his face and all that, like, at different stages around round 6. 2 of them looked dog-tired, doing a very high pace. I think Rob Tewitt there made some good points about the activity levels of Billingsmith, and I was kind of saying that last week as well. His trajectory was going in the right direction, like, and he was going to be onto a good thing if he could get a good win over Chamberlain. So Chamberlain came and did his part, fought very well. But I just think there was a difference in the strength of the two of them, really. Billingsmith is a big unit, isn't he? He's a strong guy, like, and he just and he always has an answer for you. So even in an exchange where he's maybe taking a couple of shots, he always wants to fire back and have the last word. So he's got a bit of a dog in him too. So yeah, I like him, man. I think it was good. You have to judge Boxer on that. Like, they're not putting on those big kind of pay-per-view style kind of, you know, big marquee events yet with the roster that they have. That's to be expected, and they've had a couple of stinkers and we gave them pelters for it, rightly so. But in terms of a Saturday night on Sky, man, that delivered. Like, you know, I thought the whole card delivered. That was well, the whole card didn't deliver, but the main event, it was a good main event, good close contest, bit of drama, nearly a late stoppage from Chamberlain. If he'd have got to him earlier in the 12th, he might have been able to make it closer on the cards by forcing a knockdown or something. But Billingsmith's a tough unit, like, and he's a good draw for Saturday night for domestic viewers for Sky. Like, I think it's a good move from Boxer picking up Chris Billingsmith. So he delivered for me anyway.
It's funny, actually, Robbie should mention that last 10-15 seconds. Billingsmith did something in those last 15 seconds, which I love. The gas tank just depleted. And I tell you what, another 30 seconds in that round, and he was close to getting stopped, because even though Chamberlain hadn't got much in the gas tank himself, I think Billingsmith was hurt. It reminded me of Paul McCluskey against Brady's Prescott, going back to 2010 here. This is my gauge for late round fades. I remember McCluskey, all of a sudden, the last 20 seconds, he was fucked. He was literally hanging on for dear life. And I think Billingsmith, rapping Rob Kelly, wasn't far off in that last 15 seconds. I think he was ready to go.
Yeah, you can tell a lot by his reaction to getting hit. He didn't really have much left in him, and he was struggling to keep his hands up. So, yeah, like I said, I think if Chamberlain could have got to him earlier in the 12th, he might have definitely forced a knockdown. But I don't think he would have knocked him out. I think Billingsmith might have got a second win then and got through the last round, but it would have made it closer on the cards. But I'd watch a rematch. I wouldn't have anything. I know they'll be looking to move maybe Billingsmith in a different direction, but when Isaac Chamberlain's eye heals, I definitely watch a second go at that, because I think with more activity, I don't think straight away, they probably won't go for the rematch straight away, but I think with another couple of fights, that'll be a lot closer. But again, you have to look at Ben Shalom now. He's got Whitaker and he's got Billingsmith, and he'll view them as kind of two, you know, projects almost, like, that you could develop into, you know, look at the Sky model. Like, look at the guys that they've turned into domestic stars over the years. Dillian White is one, Derek Chisora is another one. Like, so is Billingsmith and Ben Whitaker miles away from that? Probably not. Like, they fit in well on the Saturday night Sky Sports traditional kind of boxing style card. Like, so yeah, I could see both of them back on Sky again. Like, I think they were on about putting Whitaker on the AJ Usyk undercard as well. I think.
Yeah. That would be good. That'd be interesting. Take Aim says, from the angle I was at, it looked like Smith was about to drop to the canvas in that 30 seconds. Beam was having a great time. Regular listeners will know I've given up on Bean. He's been annoying me. He's been grinding me down on a Saturday night. But last night I thought I'm going to listen to it. I want to hear the atmosphere. I heard the much applauded Natasha Jonas on commentary. I know she gets a lot of props. I thought she was all right. I thought she was all right. Like, she was fine. Nothing explosive. I'll have to listen again. Listen to her body of work, bit of evidence over the weeks. I thought she was fine. She wasn't anything great. But she did her job. And Bean, Bean. Legs were shaky, Adam. Here's the respect. They were all flying out from Bean on the CompuBox cliche stats. Anyway, Rob Tebbett needs to leave us, so we'll bring him in finally. Any final words of wisdom before you hook it, Rob?
No final words of wisdom. Just thanks very much for having me. Been a long week out in Bournemouth, but I was very keen with the help of Ben Ferrucchi. I'll shout him out again. Shout out Ben Ferrucchi. To get on, always good to chop up with you guys, and I'd obviously love to come back at another point when I'm not a little bit fucked, which is, as I said in the private comments, I think the caffeine's starting to wear off a little bit. I've been sat at the train station. My train got in at just before Harper State, so I've been kind of sat here outside for the last 45 minutes, and I would naturally look quite homeless anyway. So I don't want people to start throwing loose change at me and stuff like that. So I better get going before that happens. But no, thanks very much for having me. Always a pleasure. Keep up the good work. And I'm sure. What is that photo of Garcia Solomon?
That's you at the train station.
Yeah, it very much
homeless
is.
guy.
Shout out Mauricio Solomon. Still going to work his way. I can't get started on the Jake Paul thing. I need to go home. But thanks very much, guys. And I'll speak to you guys soon.
Nice one, Rob. Catch you again.
Cheers.
Nice one. Okay, that's Rob Tebbett. He's come. He's gone. We've got Rob Kelly with us, though. Andy's here as well, episode 485. The Super Chats have dried up, but we love everybody who's thrown one in. If you haven't thrown one in yet, maybe now's the opportunity to do so. Anything on the undercard, Andy? We can move on if you want. I forgot who was even on the undercard on that Sky. Who was on the undercard?
It was Ben Whittaker was on
Ben Whittaker, wasn't it?
Ben Whittaker. Fraser Clark was fighting a big fat lump. I saw that. Do you know Joe Pigford? I forgot all about Pigford. Didn't even realise he was on. I went off to Channel 5. What about the big fat guy, Andy?
Fucking, what was it? 300 pounds that guy weighed, man.
22 stone. Fucking 22 stone. Imagine coming in looking like that on a Saturday night and Bean saying he's got a chance, man. That's a fucking disgrace, that is. I don't know why I'm so angry about that.
he said he had a chance. The only chance he's got, mate, is getting diabetes or fucking, he's fucking arteries clogged with fat and gravy and chips, and fucking size of him was unbelievable. I almost on the stoppage of this fight, it was a good left hook by Clark, to be fair. I think they'll just need to try. They need to up his talent level at this point. I mean, at least, what is he, 30, 31-year-old? Again, he's fought far better than amateurs, to be fair. And he's fighting shite like that. So, look, that's all I'm going to say about that, because I was flipping between that and the Commonwealth Games, or was it? I don't remember what I watched there last night. But the Ben Whittaker situation is quite funny, because I've seen a lot of comments. This guy is going to divide opinion. Like, he's got this James DeGale vibe off him, actually, when he's like...
Billy DeGale, do you remember they used to boo the first 4 or 5 fights? He only won people round after the Groves fighting on Badu Jack around that kind of time, I think.
Yeah. He earned his respect, but as saying he's going to boil a bit of piss at this point, because he's mocking, like, or what his behaviour is with these lesser opponents. I'm not a big fan of that. I'm fine if you're going to take the piss or mock or stick your tongue out or do what you got to do to win a fight, but it's against a guy at your same level. You know, again, I've seen Whittaker a lot in the amateurs, especially in the Worlds, etc., and that he's a very, very talented fighter. My issue is his defence. He is very leaky in defence. He kind of pulls back in straight lines. The hands are down, the chin can be in the air to dry out. So he can be caught. So maybe he just needs to get that earned out a little bit. As I say, he's another one who's definitely fought 100% better than the amateurs, actually, than what you fought there last night. As I say, his defence is loose, keeps his hands low, but he's tall, he's rangy, he's definitely skilled, and he's fucking quick. So, as I say, he's reining it in a wee bit until you get up in levels to against a guy who's in a kind of similar level, and then start taking the piss, start kind of mocking the opponent. That, because again, as I say, I don't like seeing guys of inferior quality kind of get in the ring and getting absolutely fucking dealt with like that. And just, it's one thing getting blasted out, right? It's embarrassing enough because you're going to go to your mates, fucking, bummed again at the mind. But to then get mocked as well on top of it, unless there was any fractured beef or something contriving going on in the background and that, then I'm not a big fan. As I say, there's levels to it. Again, if it was that guy there fighting against a guy of similar level and they were shithousing, fine. as long as it's similar level type guys. But I'm just not a fan of it. But again, as I say, I think he'll be a very good fighter. But the defensive flaws will definitely need to be ironed out before he goes up in levels, to be honest with you. I know who was he calling it? He was calling it somebody as well after 5 fights. He's wanting 5 fights and he wants to fight. I think he's the British champion just now. Who's the British champion at light heavy? Or super middleweight?
Oh, can't think.
It's Shaka and Pitters, I think. I think he's fighting on Channel 5 in a couple of weeks' time. So he was looking at Shaka and Pitters, I'm sure. I might be wrong on that one.
Any thoughts on Whittaker, Bob?
Yeah, I was probably the first one in the chat last night saying I don't like that shit. Like, I know Sugar Hill is training him and all that, like, but call it like it is. Like, it's your debut fight. Like, you're expected to win. He's up on the fucking ring apron celebrating like he's after stopping like a fucking prime Sugar Ray Leonard or something. I don't know. Maybe I'm too old in the tooth, or too long in the tooth now, and too old just to kind of get with this. First, this is a stick we've seen a million times in boxing, and only certain people can pull it off. And I'm not saying that Whittaker doesn't have the talent to do that. He could go on to be a terrific fighter, and I hope he does. Like, I really want to see him do well because he's come to the sport with a big profile, so he's going to draw people in. But that's kind of fake Nazim Hamed, kind of the Gale, as Andy said, vibe, like just disrespecting the opponent, talking about, oh, he's pushing up on me wearing jean shorts. Like, he's a tomato can, man. Do you know what I mean? He's a road sweeper, so he's not expected to cause you any problems. You're supposed to knock him out in the first 2 rounds as your debut fight on Sky. Now, again, don't want to detract from him too much because you look at the Danny Garcia situation, and this guy could be under huge pressure as well. He's obviously taking a calculated risk to go to Sky, knows that he's going to be on the big satellite platform, so he has to perform, he has to draw in numbers, so there's certain pressures on him to build a fan base on that platform. But I thought that was just a little bit bad taste, man. Like, when you're lauding over a guy for that's not on your level, you know, that way, especially in a sport like boxing. I just don't like it. I love showboaters when they got the talent to go with it, and again, not saying that he doesn't, but just doing it like that was a bit, I don't know. I think he split opinion already. There's already people hammering him on Twitter over it. Like, so
fucker hating him already, like you said.
Yeah, exactly. So you just make it rod for your own back like that. Like, I think the Gale did that. The Gale definitely suffered from that, I think, early in his career, like, because the way he was so disrespectful to Groves in the build up. Now, granted, the two of them didn't like each other and had a history from the amateurs and all that, but a lot of people turned on the Gale at that time, and he never really won folk back. Like, so you got to be careful as well. It's a tightrope you're walking.
I think in Whittaker's case as well, Andy, and in many other fighters like this, I think it's actually a lack of confidence. And it's a front. Like, he's outrageously overconfident because he's shielding something. You find that with people's personalities. So I say, let him go on with it. I'm not going to hate on him, but the ring that always brings out the truth. The truth you'll find out the truth in the ring. He might back it all up and win weights at world titles at 3 weights, and he's amazing. And fair play to him, he's right all along. He couldn't end up completely coming unstuck and be fixing cars like Frankie Gomez in a few years. You just don't know. Let him do what he wants to do, and the ring will find out the truth like it always does.
So it says, mate, I've got absolutely no issues if you want to shit house, but as it says, life is life. But in the boxing ring, there's levels, and that was just a journeyman there last night. What is the point in mocking that guy? I've seen this. I've seen Ben Whittaker win a fight in the Worlds. I've seen him fight in the Olympics. I've never once seen him acting like that whatsoever. Sticking the tongue out, fucking dancing on the spot, fucking baton twirling and all this fucking bollocks and that. Look, fine. Do it when you want it. Just do it. But at the end of the day, people are going to hate you for it, and maybe that's maybe it will bring a bit of interest. Maybe we do need a bit of a villain in the sport again, shall we say? But there's people that I know who follow boxing every week, and they were straight on the Twitter and they were fucking raging with him. They say call him a wanker and all type of things. That's not really a good start to, shall we say? Maybe he is fronting for something. Maybe it is, maybe isn't he as overconfident what you think he is. But what I do know, and that's what I try to keep it to, is he's a fucking good fighter, a very good fighter. And so if he can just get those defensive deficiencies sorted out, and that, I think he could go all the way. Definitely, he's definitely up to this point now. At least, I think he would compete at domestic level for a British title round about right now. Whether he wins is another matter. It says maybe he gets caught with a more seasoned, experienced fighter. But as I says, he's 100% fought far better than amateurs. He's fought Arlen Lopez, I mentioned John Docherty last week. I think he beat him in the Commonwealths a few years back. He's been in with, what do you call him? The Ukrainian got knocked out in the Olympics, Kizniak as well. Lewis Richardson, who's fighting the Commonwealths just now, he's been in with him and beat him. So look, he's definitely fought far better. As I says, that last night was just uncalled for. We knew what it was. It's a debut. It's a chance for you to kind of showcase your skills, what you're all about. A bit of Roy Jones-esque about the performance, but as I say, you've got a long way to go before you start even. You want to put yourself in that type of rarefied air. As you just keep it simple, and then it says the fans will kind of warm to that. If you want a shithouse, then yeah, look, there's a time for that. I think if you want to talk trash, I think there's a time. But when you're fighting a guy, what was his record there last night?
Probably anything. Like, yeah, he was just an opponent, like a fucking sparring partner. He would have had better sparring partners than he was fighting last night. Like,
you probably would have got a guy off the street, off the pub, actually fight that guy there last night. Probably beat him. So look, that just says its same story, I think. But look,
Steve's gone for a piss there. But like, when you see, how long do you think the relationship between Whittaker and Sugarhill will last? Like, I think they're going to have to move Whittaker really quick, and obviously they're trying to do that, trying to get him back out in August. I'd say they have like a 2-year plan for him to get him into the rankings, and I don't know if I see them staying together long term. I know it's his first fight, you can't really comment, but I just don't know. I think it's because there's high hopes for him. I think Sugarhill is there with him, but I don't know if it's a longer term project. Would he be interested in that? Like,
yeah, I think. Well, what's the situation with Sugarhill? Is he like relocated here full time?
No, I don't think so.
Parker would need to move to America with him then if he's going to get to work. Iron out these flaws he's got, that type of thing.
I'd say there's a few quid. Do you know what I mean? Behind Whittaker, like for or else they just see a chat something in him that he's going to be like a top level fighter, like for him to take that investment. That's why I'm just wondering: is it going to be a long term thing, or is it like Sugarhill looking at this guy like a ready made guy to go to the rankings? Like, because I can't see him like developing a fighter from 1-0 kind of from another country. Do you know that way? Like,
I was saying to Steve, that I'm sure he was talking about Whittaker saying he was wanting to fight for the British title within 5 fights. So that's, you're talking about, what's this, July? You need to be,
Ames is saying Whittaker trains in America. All right, well that's good. That's a good sign anyway. That's definitely something in his favour.
If you're going to work with a Sugarhill, for example, you're not going to want to be doing that by mobile phone or by Zoom. You want to be in the gym with him every day.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice one, boys. Andy, you mentioned earlier, do you want to give us a quick rundown of the things you've been watching? Bit of Commonwealth Games, bit of Amilcar Vidal. They seem to have got fed up with him in America. He's back over to Argentina at the moment. And Juski Gonzalez, a card on Thursday evening, Oscar De La Hoya. I think I must have been coked up by Oscar because I completely forgot it happened. Maybe just like the man himself.
Yeah, the only reason I noticed that the Oscar card was on was it was free on YouTube and it came up on the feed. So I kind of sat and watched it over the course of kind of Fridays and that when I was doing some work in that. That Manuel Flores, beat a guy called Daniel Moncada. Firstly, that Flores has got a kind of Lloyd Christmas type haircut, pigeon shit mixed through it for good measure. But working with Joe Diaz, southpaw, it was okay, I suppose. A guy 12-0, brutally knocked the guy out with a left cross. So we'll wait and see how he develops. Again, it'll be interesting to see what weight division he kind of wants to sit at, because with that power, at least, if he can make 115, I think he could be a bit of force, or certainly someone to be reckoned with anyway. At least, I think one of the guys was Ulnar Abdu Ramirov, I think it was. He had a first round knockout. I think it was to the gut against a guy called Leonardo Moreno, so not really much to write home there. That what do you call him? Jauski Gonzalez against Jose Angulo. That's 3 L's now on the record. Stop a flurry of shots. I think it finished with a left hook to the body. So nothing really kind of started on that card, in all honesty, mate. Vidal, on the other hand, I think we can see why he's maybe been spending the last few fights back in South America. He's been fighting Argentina and Uruguay and that back in his hometown there. I just think it's just down to levels at the end of the day with him, to be honest with you. I just think he's not ready for the step up. Possibly might be a level. It might be at a ceiling as well at this point. I just think he's very, very one pace. Doesn't seem to get up through the gears as much. And I thought the guy that fought that was like Gabriel Diaz, showed a bit of staying power, kept pumping out his jab a wee bit and that. So I think this is where Vidal's going to be basically kind of belonging over the next year, shall we say. Regardless of his top 15 ranking, I think he needs to be staying around about this level, getting experience, maybe just kind of like banking the rounds and just kind of like working on things and that, because he's nowhere. I think he's like 15 or top 10 definitely, but win some of the bodies. I don't think he's ready for any type of top names at this point, certainly top 10 anyway, so work in progress. I have watched a bit of the Commonwealth Games. I don't know if anybody else is kind of caught up with them. At this point, you've got the kind of likes of the kind of lesser nations kind of challenging some of the African countries and that, some of the kind of Pacific regions and that as well. Decent scrap between Vadamutu and is it Bagenga, I think his name was. Taylor Bevan from Wales, really interesting fighter, very good hand speed, brutal left hooks to the body and that as well. So maybe keep a wee eye on him. Maybe when he turns pro, Taylor Bevan. Who else did we get? The guy was Carol Hyde. I think he's for like Cape Verde. Got turned to stone by a guy called Osoba. Sam Hickey, who's from Scotland, he won a bronze medal, I think, at the Europeans back in a few months back. Anyway, he's through at the quarterfinals after today's win. So fair play to him. And I think what else I saw the day, actually, there were a few other fights. So Jonas is still kicking around as well, if anybody remembers that name. Boy from Namibia, I think it is, former Commonwealth gold medalist, won a bronze as well back in Glasgow a few years back. And not been catching many of the women's fights, to be fair, actually. A few early knockouts in some of the cards, some of the fights earlier in the evening session. So we're kind of like probably kind of maybe Tuesday next week, and that I think we're getting the quarters and the semi-finals, so maybe things might start picking up a wee bit. But I think we might have a few shocks. I think maybe a couple of African nations might pick up a couple of gold medals as well. A few of the Welsh being knocked out. I think there was an upset boy from Guernsey knocking out a guy for possibly Northern Ireland, possibly. One of the Scottish boys got knocked out as well. So I think we've maybe got one or two left. I think Sam Hickey's probably our best choice for our best chance for a medal, basically. So we'll wait and see how that develops. So anybody who's want to watch, I think that's on the BBC iPlayer or the Red Button. Morning session starts at noon and the evening session starts at 6:30. So just for FYI purposes.
Good stuff, Andy. Thank you for that rundown indeed. Shout out to Jonas. I used to work with a guy called Mohammed. There's a distinct lack of imagination going into the name in there with those boys, but as long as it works for them, that's the main thing. Rapping Rob Kelly, I don't know if you saw any of this, but I'll give you an overview. Josh Kelly got a win on Channel 5. Kelly Sauerland was enjoying himself. Josh Kelly's been a pro for 5 years now. He's only had 14 fights, Rob. What he needs is a dose of inactivity. Let's get him some tough fights, a strong run of opponents, and let's get him out of the fight game. See this Argentinian he was in against? I turned it off after 8 rounds. He was tall, he was strong, he was shit. He was basic, technically limited. Come on, Kelly, put the foot down, get the Troy Williamson fight, and get on with it.
Look, I called it 8 years ago on the pod with Josh Kelly. Like, I could not ever buy into the hype. And I heard some, like, really reputable people give him that bill, and it wasn't just like, casuals on Twitter. There was a lot of people within the fight game, but I just never saw it myself for the eye test. Especially when he fought Ray Robinson, I think, on the Joshua Ruiz undercard in New York. I thought he was lucky to squeak out. Was that a draw, that fight?
It was indeed.
Yeah, I thought he was lucky to get out of there with the draw, to be honest with you. I thought that was Ray Robinson was a guy who was a capable operator, but if you're not beating him with the billing that you're getting, then I was questioning whether the hype was real. And then we saw that against when he got smashed up, Avanesian, isn't it? When he got smashed up. So he's on the comeback trail. He's on terrestrial television. 5 do good numbers sometimes. Josh Kelly has got a style that could appeal to the general public, I guess, from a casual perspective on a Saturday night. But I just don't think he's ever gonna. I don't think he's ever going to reach the heights that people thought he was going to. And I think anytime he gets up around that level, the same thing's going to happen to him. So I think he's brilliant amateur. I was only thinking about it the other day. Actually, he's an example of a kind of another one of the amateur stars who hasn't quite been able to get it over the line as they come to a pro. It's a different ball game. Like, So, well, a terrific amateur pedigree helps. Obviously, it's sometimes these guys, there's differences in the programs. He flip-flopped around with that Avanesian thing, didn't he? There was a pull-out, there was an illness and all that. There's just something about that guy. I just don't think he's going to make it to the top, but I'm sure, the Channel 5 viewers were entertained.
Well, I don't know how many there were watching on Channel 5. There certainly weren't too many in the audience. Anyway, Andy, it looked absolutely shocking, the attendance. I don't know what they're doing in Newcastle there. Des says, Josh reminds me of one of those very good amateurs that I've known. The pros isn't for them. He'd have been better off staying with GB. Ricky Graville getting to the point here. Never mind go to Adam Booth. Get rid of Adam Booth. I've had enough of this guy, the dark fraud. Sack him off for a start.
Yeah, well, possibly, mate. I mean, what I would prefer to do is sack the two of them off. I think Des makes a good point actually about the amateur code and just isn't suited to the pros. If you watch Josh Kelly, he's absolutely $1 million for about 3 or 4 rounds, and then it's dull as dishwater. It's just absolutely dreadful. I was like you, mate. I kind of hung on to about the 7th round and chucked it after that. It was so repetitive, so dull. The Argentinian, sometimes you just don't know what you're going to get with some of these guys coming into Mexico and Argentina. Usually you get somebody that's absolutely shit and you'll blast them out within 1 round. Or they've got a bit of staying power, they've got a bit of bit of guile about them, they have got some sort of ability about them. But I think he even got cut there again last night as well, Josh Kelly. So there's an injury he's got to go and deal with now. And, he's not going to be in the gym again for a wee while. He was making excuses, I believe, pre-fight, and certainly the wee segment that I've seen at least, not about losing the Avanesian fight. I just think there's a lot of excuses with this guy. For as talented what he is, I just don't believe he is cut out for the pro scene. I think he's okay at a certain level, maybe fighting what he was fighting there last night, maybe a British level, but this talk about world titles and that type of thing, or eliminators, we can just fucking put that shite to bed straight away, because off the last couple of fights at least, it's just been dreadful, absolutely dreadful. And I don't know how much to that is down to Adam Booth's tactics. I know he's a kind of cautious coach, shall we say, but I just think he's washed, considering his amateur background. What he's done as a pro, at least, it hasn't been inspiring. The way he got handled off Avanesian, once he started taking the power shots, he folded pretty quickly. So is it a matter? Is it a question about is he got fragilities? Has he got the dog in him? Is he just not cut out for it, or is he just washed after a long amateur career? And then maybe this isn't the sport for him. But maybe just in it for the paycheck. But as I say, if you start going down, we'll put it this way: Eddie Hearn had him for a wee while, binned him off after a wee bit. Now he's on Channel 5 trying to, if for me at least, if you end up on Channel 5 after being with Frank or Eddie, for example, and that, I think you're basically there for a rebuild. That's what happened with James DeGale, wasn't it? He rebuilt his career on Channel 5 and on the road, European titles, finally won his world title on the road, but that was after he signed with Al Heyman. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe you just have a few tune-up fights, come back, and maybe bin off the dark fraud in Channel 5 and go somewhere else. But the signs are just not there. The signs just are not there for me to suggest that he's going to be successful as a pro. If you got him levels and says Avanesian is showing at least that he's at least a world title contender, and the way he got handled suggests to me that maybe Kelly just isn't cut up for that world title level, shall we say. So maybe European, British as his level, but I think he's washed, to be fair.
Yeah, good luck to them. We mentioned Mick Hennessy earlier. He's probably better off Channel 5 on Sky. As for Sauerland and this Wasserman, Channel 5 are going to sack them off soon. What the fuck are they doing, man? Freaking Sauerland. It's absolute crap, these cards they're putting on. I mean, he looks absolutely dead as a doornail in there. They put Gorman on Liverpool. Then they had Kelly on, wasn't he? I don't know if he was in Newcastle against this Kramer. I think he beats Cheeseman, says Chris Butler. I don't know. They've got to put him in against Williamson, somebody like that, Andy. It's got to be a 50-50 and get him in, get him out of the sport. Against Avanesian, he did show balls for a few rounds, and his friend of the pod, Sam, has said to me a few times, Kelly had blood absolutely pissing out the back of his head against Avanesian, which wouldn't have been helping his strength either. So I don't think he's a complete whitewash, but he needs to just get on with it, man. Sauerland. But what are they doing on Channel 5? They're going to have to get rid of them.
You need to ask fucking... What's his name? Cali. I mean, he's went for being like the so-called saviour of boxing. Remember, he was lauded for what he did for boxing with the World Boxing Super Series, and then he's kind of
Mm.
like died a death, sold off part of the company or whatever it was, and then he's cropped up on Channel 5 here. It's just been, it's just been awful, really, hasn't it? It's just there's been nothing really. No, at least when Fat Mick was there, you know, you had competitive fights, usually blood and war type fights. Remember that guy, was it Del Magani? He had that fight with was it the Mexican guy? I think it was. Great
Fonseca,
fight.
wasn't it? Who fought
Fonseca,
Garcia,
yeah, really interesting fight. I just think at the end of the day, they'll look at the numbers at some point and suggest that maybe just fucking sack it off boxing, which is going to be sad to see because I like boxing Channel 5 sometimes because you know you can get some decent scraps on it, or at least you used to get decent scraps on it. Callie's he's just a busty flush at this
You
point.
can't take him seriously, man. He's at ringside. His face is like a beetroot. He's got veins popping out of his head. He's absolutely off his nut on the frigging snow dust. He's like, I mean, how can
I tell you what, actually, see if you've been through one of his YouTube videos, you could actually take screenshots of him. Like here's what it's like to take when you're coming off cocaine and what it's like to fucking start getting the buzz on cocaine. His fucking face changes like every other fucking 30 seconds. Even when he's talking in interviews, he's gunning like a motherfucker. He's licking his chops, licking his lips. At one point,
Andy, people were talking about him. Do you remember before Shalom took over at Sky? He could be the face of Sky. How could you have him as the face of Sky? The face of Visit Colombia, maybe? Fucking Colombian tourism.
He'll be the face of the Scarface 2 fucking reenactment. Hey, you just know it. Say hello to my little friend. Fucking Jesus Christ. It's not looking good. Like we should have known better once we've seen the German scene really dying on its arse. I know there's a few talented fighters coming through, but it's still nowhere near what they used to have. Every other month, they used to have a fucking stacked card in Germany. The place was sold out, great atmosphere. It was a fucking happening thing to go to. I mean, Friday nights, Marco Hook, Arthur Abraham, Sturm, Sylvester, all these guys. I mean, fucking, you even had Daniel Gilganer, Germany. Golovkin fought out of Germany for a wee bit, and that Klitschko's obviously. It's just fucking went to shit. Just like what's happened with Channel 5. So the quicker I can get them off, the better. Might even see Eddie Hearn dropping off at Channel 5 at some point once the zone goes down the shitter. You never know. Even Ed.
Evening, Ed. Yep, Josh Ford says Stieglitz, Ulrich, Amin, Asakainen, watching them on a Saturday night. Good times, maybe not. Let's move on then to the action for next week. I'm not going to delve any deeper into the undercard of that one. We'll give a cursory shout out as we tend to do without getting too involved. Former friend of the pod, Tony Hands of Stone Luis, Saturday the 6th of August. He's fighting against Steve Claggett, once a prospect, now a bit of a washed-up journeyman kind. Imagine, even with his lack of punching power, Luis getting rid of Claggett. Of course, former friend of the pod, Gabe, once got stuck in on Tony Luis. I messaged Gabe last week to check if he was all right, and I haven't heard from him, unfortunately. So if you're out there, Gabe, and you're listening, hope you're all right, pal. We love and respect you. Also, next weekend, talking of Eddie, you have Dalton Smith against Samo Mason on DAZN, Sandy Ryan on the undercard fighting against another Argentinian, and Jordan Thompson against Vasil
Falkland's
Ducar.
reenactment coming up here.
Ah, yes, indeed. Johnny Fisher, Hopi Price, Campbell Hatton. Unless you want to say anything about that, Andy, I'm not even going to touch that card. I'm just going to move on.
What card's that, mate?
Dalton Smith on Channel 5, DAZN. No, DAZN, sorry, not Channel 5. Sounds like Channel 5. Campbell Hatton.
I've just seen the card, mate. So you've got Campbell Hatton. Oh, Hopi Price. Fucking hell, man. Be better be Katie Price, Jordan Thompson. Have you seen on this podcast once before?
Jordan Thompson? No, I don't think we had him. I don't think we had Jordan Thompson on.
No, mate. To be honest with you, no, I'm not really. Oh, this is not great. To be fair.
No.
Nah. We'll
move on. Come on, we'll just move on.
Yeah.
No, I'm not even going to give that time of day. We'll talk about it next week. Also, next weekend, although this has been cancelled, Matty texted during the week saying that the fight predictions for next week would be Tyrone McKenna, Chris Jenkins, which we'll talk about shortly on the Conlon undercard, and Casual's favourite, Jake Paul against Hasim Rahman Jr., but apparently that fight has actually been cancelled, so we're not going to be talking about that. Serrano's on it still. Brandon Lee, he's a bit of an exciting puncher, going in against Will Madeira. Joseph Ward, that's Joe Ward, we were talking about him the other week, going against Frederic Joulin, who's a Frenchman based in Brooklyn, and a load of other no marks. So there's no point in talking about it. I didn't even realise that Jake Paul fight Andy was on against Hasim Rahman, but it seems like he's not even on now because they've sacked it off for some reason. A dispute over the weight, apparently.
Yeah, apparently no. From what I can recall, somebody mentioned it on Twitter. I think he had, or I'm sorry, Rackman's had something to lose, like £30 in so many weeks, and he's not going to be able to make it. So he's asked for, is it £215? And Paul's saying no. I think the commission's also kiboshed it as well. Obviously, you can't make the weight safely enough, and that would the people want an accident in the fucking ring. So it's been cancelled. I don't know if the way it was put to me, the whole card's been fucking binned as well.
Oh, has it really?
So I was told. So that would mean the Serrano fight's off as well. I think Brandon Lee was on that card. No, the aforementioned one is dead, but
the Crow.
the Crow. He's
Crow's a good lad, isn't he? He's coming back from the dead.
So that was that was that no Showtime next week? Is that no pay-per-view as well?
It's going to be Showtime pay-per-view. I'm surprised they didn't just sack it off and have Serrano and Lee on the standard Showtime. I'm surprised to hear that now.
I see the other brothers at Logan. I see he's new fucking doing somersaults on WWE.
Yeah, he was on Super Slam or something. My son was telling me about that last night.
That's what it was. Aye, fucking jump out of the ring there like a maniac.
He was fighting against someone on SummerSlam. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so fucking he's doing no bad, eh? Doing no bad.
Tell you what, the Jake Paul thing though, right? As much as boxing people complain about it, and everyone could end this Jake Paul circus if they just stop fucking talking about it, ourselves included, obviously. But like, they're all just pandering to him. Like every YouTube channel, every fucking media outlet, they're all pandering to Jake Paul. He has boxing on strings, like
just knock him out. Just knock him out. So you do it.
He had he was charging pay-per-view for fight. Hasim Rahman Jr. is one of his sparring partners. That was going to be a pay-per-view event. He's robbing the bank every time out. Like, if they really wanted rid of him, they just stopped covering him. But, you know.
And then, of course, Chris Eubank got involved. And then what happens after that? And, Conor Ben gets involved saying, I heard you've lost your pen. So we'll wait and see what kind of contrived bollocks we're going to get out of this one, actually.
I mean, that's like, imagine, like, that just epitomizes a fighter's calling out Jake Paul. Like, fucking hell. The other agent as well, what's his name? Bradis. He was at it there, wasn't he, for a long time? Like,
he got a tattoo. He got a Jake Paul tattooed on.
Just what the fuck is it? They don't. Everyone's like, "Oh, this is the wrong direction for the sport." But stop fucking interviewing him then. Like, just leave him alone. Like Tony Bellew.
Cal Ched said they didn't sell enough tickets. Really, 75% of tickets was not sold. I don't know. That Jake Paul, though, as I was saying before, my son was watching the SummerSlam, like you referenced, Andy, Logan Paul. And I overheard the name Logan Paul. I said, "Oh, Logan Paul, what's he doing? Is he in the wrestling now?" Yeah, he says he's the brother of the famous boxer Jake Paul. So disappointed, Andy.
Oh, Steve, I would sack off of work tomorrow, mate. Take him in the car, go into the doctor's surgery, and ask for a DNA test.
You got to, tell you what you do.
That's not some of yours, mate.
You got to go full Paul Sykes on him. You know the Paul Sykes documentary.
Oh yeah.
He's an horrible little bastard, him. Is he? He's an horrible little bastard. I'm going to have to beat him up because he doesn't understand.
Fuck Paul Sykes, mate. David Wilfredo Benitez, his dad did fucking put him in the fucking street fights and throw money at him or stuff like that to get his brain damage or something. Little shit hawk coming out with that push. You have a word with him, mate.
Yeah. Oh dear.
You might need to go Roy Jones Senior on him and get a bit of wood and a nail in it.
Yeah.
The old cockfighting. Well, we are on a farm. Anyway, yeah. Hopefully he'll come round, the poor fella. But yeah, that's what he came off with today. Shout out to Jake Paul. The fight has been cancelled and the show has been cancelled. Let's move on to real boxing
YouTube,
then.
though, see, YouTube, I know we're broadcast on YouTube now, but my daughter's the same. She watches these fucking shit things like, is it Roblox or Roblox, what it's called? And like these influencers, just shite that they talk, and then like you hear her talking later on, you're like, "And shut the fuck up. Just speak normally, all right? You're no cool, you're no hip." You know, the sway that some of these people on YouTube have got over some of these youngsters by was incredible. Jake Paul was a famous boxer. Fucking hell, man. What's he been listening to, Steve?
I don't know, man. I'm struggling to get over it, to be honest. It's a shame we haven't got that kind of sway.
State of shock, man.
Need to find him a super chat. Yes.
Yeah, the super chats have dried up very quickly, haven't they?
Yeah, what's the crack? We were flying it earlier. What's the crack? We're keeping it going here, aren't we? Look at us covering the fucking the cancelled Jake Paul fight. Where are you going to get content like this on a Sunday?
Breaking news, Rob. Breaking news.
Exactly. Ungrateful bastards.
I know, exactly. Right, let's move on swiftly. Over to the SSE Arena, Belfast, Northern Ireland. We have Michael Conlan against Miguel Mariaga. I think I might break my duck. Welling's going back to a show for the first time in, God, what is it? Must be 3 years or so. I think I'm going to attend this one. Conlan Mariaga. You've got Murphy Farrell for the BUI Celtic title as well. Paddy Donovan against Tom Hill. Podrick McCrory, friend of mine. Shout out to Podrick, good lad he is, going in against Marco Antonio Periban. And Tyrone McKenna against Chris Jenkins, which Matty, for some reason, has thrown into our prediction league. First of all, Rob, word on Conlan against Mariaga. As I was saying to John O'Donovan last night, I think this is a decent comeback fight for Mariaga. Whenever Conlan got knocked out by Lee Wood, I was worried whether he'd even fight again. Turns out it was a knee-jerk reaction. He's coming straight back in again at a decent level in a 10-rounder against a guy who's only ever been stopped by Lomachenko.
Yeah, look, there's going to be question marks now over Conlan off the back of that, like, because it was a fight he was in control of, but towards the end started to wilt a little bit in terms of energy and everything. He looked a little bit sapped, and then Wood caught up with him, and it was a scary knockout. It wasn't just a standard one. It was a scary one, the way he went out of the ring and hit his head and everything. Like, people were genuinely concerned from ringside, as well as Lee Wood himself. So obviously after a knockout like that, there's going to be moments in the fight where he gets tagged. Because Mariaga will tag him, I think, and how he responds will tell a lot, I think. So if he bites down and he comes through it, Mick has that tendency. He's not as bad as Jamie, obviously, but he has a tendency to get drawn in where he doesn't need to. That's been my bugbear of him since he became a pro. He hasn't really got that kind of power, and I think he should be using his technical skills a lot more rather than trying to trade with fellas, although it's just a natural tendency of his. He does get drawn into firefights. So he did it a bit against that Russian guy that got the controversial decision against him in the Olympics when they had his kind of moment of clarity or whatever in the States. He's just done it against opponents as well that probably shouldn't be in the fight with him as well. Along the way, I can't think of names of some of the guys on the come up. And then definitely against Wood, I think he should have been out of sight. Punched very well in the first. I think it was the opening round he decked him, or the second round, and was in control of the fight. And then Wood got back into it, but Conlan, the energy seemed to be he seemed to be spent. So that's going to be an issue. How he responds when he gets hit is going to be an issue, and we'll see where he's at. But definitely, it's not a gimme as a comeback. Absolutely, it's a fight he can win. I think if he sticks to his boxing, but it's a tough outlook.
And Rob, to humour our American friend Matthew D. Jalanado, Tyrone McKenna against Chris Jenkins is on the prediction league.
I think this would be a good scrap, actually. Both kind of fought around the same level and lost around the same level. So I'm going to say Jenkins, actually. I'm going to say Jenkins late stoppage.
Really?
Yeah, I'm going for Jenkins on a late stoppage, around 10 to 12.
You done me this week, Rob. You went for Garcia points. Do you remember I was going to go as well? And I said, I'll mix it up and go for Garcia knockout. So you've extended your lead, I think, over
I'm basically the oracle of fucking boxing.
You are, man. You're doing well.
Boxing leagues on the parlays. So
right. So you're going Jenkins stoppage over McKenna, yeah?
Yeah.
Right.
On cut or something. I have a feeling it's going to be a good scrap up until and then Jenkins will take over in the last third.
Jenkins is a bad cutter too, Rob, isn't he? As well, he loves a cut.
Yeah, it's going to be blood and guts. I think it'll be a good tear up in the atmosphere and that as well. We'll be building for the main event. That I think there'll be a good. It's a good stage for a good fight like that. At two guys with a similar level. I just think Jenkins will come. I just have a feeling Jenkins will come out on top once it gets down the stretch.
Yeah, there'll be good support for McKenna as well, because they'll have that same West Belfast crowd for Conlan in there. Jenkins has been over here a few times, fought the likes of Ormond, Phil Sutcliffe. Bad one against Paddy Gallagher on the last failure. I thought that Gallagher got a bit of a raw deal, and he never boxed since. On Conlan against Mariaga, Andy, we were talking about the weights there. Yeah, Mariaga's been doing most of his work at super feather. Boxrec have this down as feather, but I can't see the dark fraud going with that. I'd say they may be coming a couple of pounds over feather.
Yeah, that's the reason I was asking, because obviously Mariaga's, he's definitely got the hard yards in. He's been up at super feather the last couple of fights. He took an L in his last fight. So I'm just thinking, if he's, 36 now, if he's coming down in weight, is he making it safely? He's got the travel to factor in. I'm just wondering if he's going to overcook it a wee bit. That might just play into Conlan's hands, to be honest with you. But you see, it probably will be kind of like run about, what is it, 126? Probably 128 possibly. You say it's a toughish fight for Conlan's kind of comeback after what he went through, actually, off that Lee Wood knockout. But at the same time, if Conlan was a bit of a banger, I'd actually probably emphatically say that he would win this fight by knockout, because I think Mariaga's seen better days. But considering what he's went through in the last fight, that he's not really a big hitter as well. It's for me, it's just to kind of wait and see how it goes. But I think the safe option here would be to say Mick wins wide on points. Again, I just think we'll just need to wait and see how it looks like on the scales at the end of the day. Because I think Marriaga is washed as a fighter, but I also think he's also maybe cooked on the scales as well. Again, depending on what the contracted weight is for this one.
And for our prediction league, before you go, Andy, I'm going to go in. They're both cutters. McKenna got busted up badly and cut by Prograis, but Prograis is a completely different level. Jenkins, they're in and around the same level, like Rob says. I think home advantage, it'd be a good fight, but I think McKenna will start pulling away down the stretch and win by about 2 or 3 points. Points, McKenna.
Yeah, I was going to say points as well, mate, from McKenna. Both guys are really noted hitters. I know Jenkins has been stopped in the last couple of fights as well, so has McKenna. Probably a crossroad fights, maybe a kind of loser goes home, to be fair. Wait and see, but both are up in age now at this point. Maybe the winner gets a British title fight off the back of it, who knows, but I'm going to say McKenna does open points. As you say, the whole home advantage probably will be enough for him. So yeah, maybe 2 or 3 points as well. Is that a 10-rounder? Yeah, I'll say McKenna points.
Yeah, I agree. 10-rounder. As for the other fight, boys, I'll get in touch with Matty and he'll no doubt throw it in during the week. Joe Kennedy on his league might go through it for a different fight. He might stick with this one. He'll have to replace Paul Rackman as well, so I'll leave that to Joe to deal with that one as and when he listens to it, and we'll get in touch with Matty during the week. I'm looking forward to that. I don't know who's showing it on TV. Someone could maybe Fight TV is showing it. Sky aren't going anywhere near it, even though Colin Boxing.
Maybe YouTube? No?
Lads. Yeah, no, someone said Fight TV to me, I think.
So, give me a second. I'll just go and check that. I think it'll be... Oh, I think I did see that last night I was looking on
it is Fight TV.
schedule.
Is it Fight TV, yeah?
I was going to see how much it is.
For paid, maybe a 10 or something like that. Because Fight TV showed the last fight, didn't they? Conlan against TJ Dehaney.
According to this, it's just $8 now. I'm assuming that'll be available to us, so it's all right.
That's not too bad.
You going to buy it?
No, I'll go. Oh, I'm hoping to go.
Oh, of course, right.
If someone will send me. If you're out there and you're a content creator and you want a half-decent written article, give Wellings a shout. I'll sort it out for you.
You slag.
Content, bro.
Steve
spreading words together. Come on.
Steve spreading his legs here, baby. Come and get me, bitches.
Absolutely. Bent straight over. No messing around.
Fucking no lube, man. Straight in there. Just pull it out when you're finished.
No room for humility in this game, Andy. Sometimes you just get stuck in, haven't you?
As I say, the red light district of sports, mate.
Exactly, the red light district of sports. A final one before we go on to value of the weeks, everybody. Dickie's Arena. Speaking of bent over, Fort Worth, Texas, we've got Maurice Hooker, or GTA himself, going in against Blair Cobbs, Marlon Esparza against Eva Guzman. Henry Lundy is on the card. That's Hank Lundy. That shows you all you need to know about that. Forget about Floyd Mayweather. It's Floyd Schofield. And you've got Bektamir Melakuziev, Beck the Bully, who once got knocked out by Rosado. But on to the main event there, Andy. Virgil Ortiz Jr., 18-0 against Michael McKinson. This fight was supposed to take place a few months ago. Ortiz had some kind of blood deficiency or some kind of situation going on. McKinson, I think, ended up fighting Alex Martin, who's also on the undercard against the aforementioned Hank Lundy. It's all becoming clear now. Ortiz against McKinson. McKinson's a lovely boxer. Showed a little bit of power here and there against the likes of Congo. And I think he's a tough guy and he'll be in there for the long haul. But eventually, as the fight starts to go on, I can see Ortiz putting the pressure on and stopping him in about 9 or 10 rounds. What do you reckon?
Again, I think it comes down to Ortiz. You know, how is he recovered for this illness? I think is it rhabdomyolysis or something like that he had? Some sort of weight issue.
Struggles to make the weight badly, doesn't he?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Maybe he's cooked at the weight as well, and that might just play into McKinson's hands, especially early doors of that fight. If McKinson can somehow just pile up a few rounds, I mean, it's going to be hard from no question about it, especially on a Golden Boy card, away, on the road. He will need to box a perfect fight, just box and move, just try to outbox him for as long as possible, keep off the ropes. Don't get dragged into a firefight. If he does, he could come off worse. But again, we'll just need to wait and see how Ortiz is actually recovered. Obviously, we're all kind of high on him. We do believe that the Ortiz Boots Ennis fight would be interesting to happen. But again, as I say, the more time it goes along with this weight issue, the illness, I'm just a wee bit concerned. And as I say, if he's not on it, and if he's struggling to make the weight, I think McKinson could potentially pull off an upset here if he's able to box. Is it 12 rounds? Is that 12 rounder, mate?
Yes, it is indeed. Yes.
There's a 12 rounds. So if he's able to box for those 12 rounds, he could potentially nick a decision. But I just think with being on the road, Golden Boy, and if Ortiz is fully fit and ready to go, I could potentially see a late stoppage. Actually, if he does get caught in the ropes and he does start getting teed off on, but Ortiz can sometimes kind of like overextend himself. He can maybe miss a lot of shots. He can be a wee bit wild. And also as well, he's been at the ring now how long? Over a year possibly. So maybe a bit of rustiness coming off there as well. But in the end, I think he will prevail. I'm going to say Ortiz probably wins on points. Just factoring all the other wee things. Maybe he comes out and looks $1 million and everything I just say is complete bollocks. But I'm going to say the safety first. I'm going to say Ortiz wins on points.
Wow, Andy, there's something that you picked up on there. I can't believe time just flies, as we mentioned on this pod. It was nearly a year to the day he'll be boxing McKinson that he boxed Kavalauskas. That was a year ago.
Wow. Wow, God. There you go. And it says inactivity, weight problems, illnesses, and you're going to be fighting a guy who's basically a pure technician. Could be chasing him all over the ring. Yeah, it could be a long, horrible night's work for him until he maybe starts getting his range into play and that maybe gets his heavy shots, his jab, his left hook and that. But I don't think it's an easy fight from whatsoever, to be fair.
I don't think his future's at 147, which is such a shame because I thought he was going to fight our boy, the Beast. He's coming for them all. Him against Ennis would have just been class.
I just want to see him more active now. I know he's sitting on this fight. Forget who at this point, the IBF, isn't it? Who's it again? Who's he fighting? It's an eliminator, isn't it? An IBF
Ennis?
eliminator. Aye.
Oh, I can't remember now. They've talked about a few different names, haven't they? Oh God, who was it? Tell us in the chat.
It was, what's his fucking name? It's...
Can't remember.
What's his fucking name? Unless he's pulled out.
They were talking about Ennis Thurman and then somebody else.
Has anybody got that name in the chat there? Somebody threw that name in the chat.
Can't remember.
Who was Ennis meant to be fighting? Was it Lipinets?
No, he's already battered him.
Was it Lipinets? Oh, fuck it. I can't mind.
It's...
I just, again, we all think Boots is the future, but again, another one just needs the fights, needs the opportunities, needs to take them. So we'll just need to
who's going to fucking fight him, though? For fuck's sake. Which one of the current crop is going to risk it against your own Ennis now? Like,
especially some of the old school ones as well, like Thurman, Garcia, Spence.
Don't start me on Thurman. I have one for value of the week.
They're not going to fight him anytime soon. To be fair, I think he's another one who might need to take the short end of the wedge if he's going to get a legend. But I'm still trying to think who was meant to be fighting.
Ennis needs to just sort himself out and sign with the PBC. He sorted out the business in Middendorf now. They've got rid of him. It's just him and Cameron Duncan. And apparently, the last I read, they were looking at their options. Fuck looking at your options. There's nothing for you on the other side of the street. Sign with the PBC. That's where everybody is and get on with it.
I asked this before, but is that Cameron Slim Duncan? If it is, I think he's one half of the record label Cash Money that sold to Universal for 400 million, so he might know something. You know what I mean? I don't know if it's the same guy, but if it is him, he definitely knows how to get some money out of somewhere.
Right, I'm not sure, Rob. To be honest,
it was Custio Clayton he's meant to be fighting. So what's happened to that fight?
No, he already beat Custio Clayton.
Was that earlier on in the year?
Yeah, he knocked out Custio Clayton with a shot behind the ear in about 2 or 3 rounds.
So was that a final eliminator?
That was an eliminator. I'm not sure if it was a final eliminator. There was somebody else they were talking about putting him in with. I can't remember who it is now.
Definitely not the same Cameron Duncan, by the way. I just looked him up. Totally different guy I'm thinking of.
Well, see if that's the case then, mate. See if that was the final eliminator. Fucking Boots is waiting forever to get a title fight.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be this time next year before he even gets
wasn't there some guy who was waiting to fight Spence for like 3 years? Some Russian, was it Ponomarev or something? He ended up losing to like was it Cody Crowley in the end?
Oh, was it him? Oh, aye. I know the one you're talking about.
He kept taking step aside money, didn't they? And in the end, he got beat.
him with the fucking the human password. What was his name?
That'd bring me all over if I was a pro. I'd take step aside money. I'd have a year off, man, taking step aside. I'd be working my way into the mandatory just so I could take step aside money.
Who was it? Eladale Alvarez. Do you remember him? He kept taking step aside money for Kovalev.
Oh, remember him?
Money for Stevenson.
About a year and a half till he's washed. Fucking hell.
He beat Kovalev, didn't he beat Kovalev?
Yeah, he beat Kovalev in the end. Yeah, he just kept taking step aside money non-stop off Adonis Stevenson, wasn't he?
I like you see Boots in with Butayev. Butayev is a hard, fucking nasty, rough fighter. That'd be a good one. Fight.
That'd be
But
a good
again,
one. Yeah, he
if
beat
that's
Jamal James, didn't he? But
yeah, if that's a
Mhm.
final eliminator though
Oh.
against Costello Clayton, he's not going to be risking.
Stanionis. MB says Stanionis. Was it Stanionis? I heard Ben. They were talking about Ben for Stanionis.
Fuck off,
I
Stanionis
know.
would kill him
That's
with
what
a
I
jab.
thought too.
Jesus Christ, what's wrong with these people? Stanionis, of course. Remember Eddie? That's what you should ask Rob Tebbit to ask him about Stanionis. But Eddie's fucking clever, man. He's like, well, he's not got a following. He's not got this. He's not got bollocks, pish. The amount of Lithuanians that moved to the UK back in the fucking after the Second World War looking for jobs. The fucking places hosts with fucking expats and Lithuanians in the UK. So you try to tell me it wouldn't sell fucking good numbers there here? You're fucking lying to us, by the way. That would do good numbers in the UK, that fight, Ben standing on his fight, because the Eastern Europeans would definitely turn up for it. 100%. 1000% actually, in fact. But it's not going to happen because Stanionis alone on the jab would absolutely take Ben apart just by that one shot. So we just put that under the bin.
On that subject, Andy, I remember about 12 years ago, the late Harry McGavick, who I mentioned last week, did a show in Dublin in the Tala basketball arena, and you could fit a fair few thousand in there. And apparently it was just all Polish fighters.
Yeah.
And they packed the place absolutely to the rafters. I remember him telling me.
Yeah, I'll tell you what as well. See if we were ever to get like a Pakistani or an Indian fighter up our way, it was maybe to kind of break through. It'd be interesting to see what kind of following they would get, because obviously we've got a massive fucking community of them over here and that. So it'd be interesting to see if they would get a type of following, but who knows? But as I says, they're definitely in terms of Eastern Europeans, Poles, Lithuanians, now the Ukrainians, for example, and that as well. As if there was ever a fight to be happening here, definitely, without doubt, they would turn up for that fight.
You know what Eddie's? I don't know, but he's heard of Stanionis.
yeah,
He's under 40. His best days weren't about 10 years ago, and he's relatively active and high up in the rankings. I mean, he ticked none of the boxes.
Very good. The thing is, you can see the exact same with Eddie in that if you're in America, he starts his pish with Conor Ben. Who's Conor Ben in America? Nobody's heard of him. Nobody's ever seen him fight.
What fight were we talking about again?
Ortiz, that's who it was.
Oh, yeah.
Right in the rabbit hole there.
Yeah. Ortiz McKinson. Rob, what are you thinking about this one?
I think we went down such a rabbit hole. I popped back up with Victor Ortiz on my mind instead of Virgil Ortiz.
Now you're talking opponents for Conor Ben.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, credible opponents for Conor Ben. Actually, fucking don't rule it out. No, I expect Virgil Ortiz to beat McKinson. I think I haven't seen anything from him in the ring to suggest that he hasn't got what it takes to beat McKinson. The way it's going to be a problem, he's going to end up further up at 54 down the line. But I love Virgil Ortiz, love watching his fights, and I think he'll get the job done early enough. I think he'll break McKinson down. Could be before 8 rounds, but want to see him active. Want to see all these guys active and fighting each other now. There seems to be kind of a bit of a lull in match. It was definitely dead for the last couple of weeks. The schedule hasn't been great. We're looking forward to Usyk and AJ coming up, but Bud Crawford, rumblings of Bud Crawford and Spence being done before the turn of the year. But like, we have to see the rest of the runners in the division. I feel like about 5 years ago, especially in the welterweights, it was like almost like a round robin of top fighters that were about to have a box off to see who was going to come and be the successor to Floyd. But that's kind of hit a bit of a stale patch. I think Spence is probably the closest thing to that, in that he holds all the silverware. But it's been a slow, kind of drawn out progression of the division, and I think Ortiz is that fresh blood and Zhirov, and that really can set the pace there for the next few years, because I think Spence will move north regardless of the result against Bud Crawford, and I don't think Crawford will stick around at 4-7 if he's won all the belts. I think he'll try and test himself up at 54 as well. Just the competitive person that he is, I think if he beats Spence for all the marbles, who else at 47? I think he's going to fucking hang around just to fight Jerome Ennis and defend against him. So I think Jerome Ennis and Ortiz are going to be the successors, but we have to see them all box off against each other now and just get these routine wins out of the way.
Interestingly enough, Rob, John O'Donovan, I'll mention that chat again. He was saying last night that I think it's next week the PBC are due to announce, the way they do those half-year schedules and they map out the rest of the year. And we were saying how sweet would it be to see that graphic again. Davis, Garcia, Spence, Crawford just sitting there. Oh, it'll be lovely.
Davis, Garcia, Ryan Garcia, yeah. I was thinking, fucking hell, he's not going up to 50. I know he put so great. He's had going up to 54. Danny Garcia, no, that'd be amazing. I don't think Garcia and Tank will be done this year at all. No, I don't even believe Garcia believes that himself at the moment. I know he talks a lot about Tank Davis, but actually, you know, as it's fucking, there's talkers and smoky bacon walkers, isn't there? Glad I came up with that just now.
No, that's a good one, man. Well done, Rob, coming off with all the little sayings. You should coin that while you get the chance. Jumping on the call here. This is a bit of a rare treat on a Sunday evening. It's only the main man himself. My co-host, Matty D. Gialinardo's jumped on the call. Where are you, Matt?
What kind of fucking asshole dials in from their holidays?
Hopefully there's no echoes. I don't have my head.
I don't know. Fucking Rob phoned him for his wedding fucking ceremony all day.
and customs and border patrol or wherever the fuck I was. Passport control.
Go on, Matt. Let's hear you.
So I'm in Canyon City, Colorado. I got one more day of my golf.
Good stuff. Did you see anything over the weekend?
And yeah, I got a chance to see Garcia and Benavidez. And Benavidez is probably the best paid punching bag on the face of the earth, making far more money than Everlast, as far as I can tell. I thought it was closer to that 117, 111 than Farhood's absolutely wide score, only giving Benavidez a round. I thought he might have yanked the first and one other besides the ninth or whatever they gave him, maybe one more. Garcia just looks too small at the weight. You had a guy who just who when he chose to walk him down and throw punches, could visibly push him back, control the pace, control the action, and he just didn't want to put enough punches together, didn't want to go to the body enough. Garcia saying he wants Lara for the middleweight title at 155 pounds is laughable as shit. Not that he can't win the fight, but it's a fucking joke fighting for the middleweight title at 155 pounds. I think we've all agreed on that since, you know, the Canelo weights. And even though I didn't catch the fight, I caught the post-fight interviews, didn't get there in time. Not shocked at all that Demirzin was able to beat Konoski with his pedigree. Konoski being just a real straight-ahead fighter. Demirzin probably didn't sound like he had much of a problem after the first couple of rounds, but it sounds like it was a kind of entertaining fight, and I'll probably check that one out when I get home.
Lovely stuff. Next week's Prediction League, Matty, I've asked the boys about McKenna Jenkins. They've thrown in their picks, but as you'll no doubt have heard, Jake Paul Hasim Rahman has been cancelled. So I don't know what you want to do about the Prediction League. You don't have to sort it out now, but I just thought I'd mention it while you're on.
Yeah, just what is there anything else that was kind of a interesting enough fight on the weekend? I'm trying to think.
We've gone with our different things for Ortiz against Michael McKinson. We've come up with pretty different predictions, I think.
Did anyone think it was going the distance?
I think, did Andy? Did you say? Andy did, yeah.
I thought that because purely based on Ortiz' illness, he hasn't fought in a year, plus the weight issue.
McKinson is awkward as fuck too.
Yeah, he's a good boxer. So if he's chasing that fight, you could maybe see him chasing that.
Let's run with that. Let's run with that one, and I'll just throw in another stoppage for Ortiz, and we'll leave Andy alone on that decision mountain.
Okay, I'll do. Andy decision, we'll all go stoppage as well. Anything else you want to throw in, Matty? I mean, you can stay as long as you want. I don't know where you're located Wi-Fi wise.
Do I sound okay?
Yeah, you sound okay.
Yeah, I'll just hang out for the values and how'd everybody go on the Jenkins fight? Have we picked that one yet?
Yeah, Rob went stoppage for Jenkins. Me and Andy both went McKenna on points.
What was that, Steve?
Oh, I said Rob went stoppage for Jenkins. Me and Andy both went McKenna on points.
Interesting. I think I'm going to go Jenkins on points on that one. So,
right, excellent. I'll throw all this into the DMs later, and you can tabulate them up. Okay?
For sure.
Stick with us as long as you want, Matthew, then. Episode 485, we'll go on to the Bellew of the Weeks. Matty's here on his vacation, as those Americans say, from Colorado. Rapping Rob Kelly's here as well. Andy's with me. Steve, everyone's in the chat having a great time. No sign of Jason Chukwu just yet. But if Chukwu does appear, we will let you know straight away. We had a question from Declan, actually. I think I'll leave that till next week because we managed to squeeze 2 hours, 10 minutes out of this. So Declan, we'll ask that one next week on your behalf. Let's go on to the Bellew of the Weeks. Oh, let's play an intro, why don't we? I almost forgot. Let's see what we've got. To celebrate Usyk against Joshua, let's play this.
This is Kugan Cassius for IFL TV in association. Tony.
Stop, Cougs. I'm trying to just chill. Will you piss off? Please. please. Respect
Tony.
the man's privacy, Coogan.
Tony.
I don't want to be on camera or television.
You're at a public event.
I know. I've got
I'm
a
not
couple of.
on your doorstep.
I know, but you know, I've stayed away from everything recently. People think I've disappeared. Well, I kind of have. I just want reality back. I want a normal life, and I will find it because I will stay out of all your way for a good 12 months. You guys have always called me Tony Bellew. I only created the name Tony Bellew to make me our fella proud. My name's Anthony Bellew, mate. Tonight it's over, mate. Tony Bellew died tonight. I'm done, Cooks. I told you Tony Bellew died tonight. I just go home and I live life normal now. I enjoy my life. And it's over. I mean, Tony Bellew's gone now. I've been Tony Bellew for a long time. He can punch, obviously, but he's been able to punch and he's been able to really punch, turn lights out. You know, has he ever knocked anyone unconscious? I shouldn't really say that, should I? It's only been my bleeding luck, but I've done it on a number of occasions. You've seen me turn lights out, just out. I've done that. I can do that again. Would you wish bad on anyone? So there is something wrong in saying that. I don't hope the Deontay Wilder gets hit or beat up. I hope he loses the fight, yeah. But I hope he's sound and he goes, right, nice one, just earned the right few million seers after. So, you know, I don't wish anyone actual bad harm. I just think that's what's going to happen.
Someone is hitting me, he's going to stay here. The only thing he's getting in with that belt. I said I'll give you a free shot on the chin. I can't wait. Knock me out. I cannot wait. You said at the weight, your legs are going. If you give me a free shot, mate, you're waking up in anybody's ambulance. You're waking up in an ambulance. You're waking up in an ambulance. Let's do it right now.
See that one? See that bit that's absolutely slowed down like 10 speed? He still sounds scouse in that fucking doesn't he? Jesus Christ.
Shout out to Boxing Squared who created that. That's a classic, that is. We'll keep that and play it forevermore.
Get a life, Boxing Squared.
Yeah,
Love how Anthony spoke about Tony in the third person there, but sad to see that Tony's died. So
he doesn't wish ill on anybody.
No.
You wouldn't catch Rob Kelly doing that shit.
Just leave me alone, Cougs. Right, so let's get on to the action for this weekend. I've got about 20 on. I'll tell you what, I've got sent about 45 this week. People are flying them in, but we have to leave some out, don't we? So thank you. If you sent them in and they haven't made the cut, nothing personal, mate. Nothing personal. A shout out to Rick Glazer, who was shitting on the Showtime card at the weekend, said it was rubbish, full of washed-up fighters. Darren Brogan said, Rick, aren't you working with Anthony Peterson? He's completely shot and well past the back nine. Rick Glazer said, Darren, actually, Anthony isn't shot. He looked great in his recent fight, which even surprised me somewhat, that he still has great speed. If he was shot, I would not be working with him. #boxing. Peterson's opponent was Saul Corral. 30 wins, 18 losses.
Fucking hell.
Fucking Glazer, man. He's brutal, isn't he? No shame. No shame.
I think Glazer needs to hook up with Floyd and start up a new company called Double Glazer.
Double Glazer. Double Glazer 24/7. Working on Windows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Oh dear. He's an absolute car crash, is Glazer. Anyway, a shout out to Jim Gray for interviewing Jose Benavidez Jr. while he was getting stretched out on the floor by his strength and conditioning coach. Did you catch this, Andy?
I didn't see that, mate. No, thank God I didn't. I mean, look, they're doing yoga there together. What the fuck?
The guy was stretching him out and trying to crack his back and all, and Jim's there trying to interview him, and Benavidez like, yeah, I'm looking forward to that one.
Your man is answering Jim Gray like spinal.
Broke my back.
Oh, Jim Gray. He's quite the character. Hosea Stewart, Boxing Squared, who created that video, shout out to them. I think Wasserman Boxing and I have different ideas about what a draw is or means. I guess they aren't going to let the facts get in the way of a social media post. Hosea Stewart, who got a 4-round draw against Franklin Ignatius, didn't let that hold him back because they announced him as the winner on their social media afterwards anyway. So well done, Hosea, on the draw stroke win.
A win's a win, mate. We'll take
A win's
it anyway.
a win. Yeah, exactly.
We'll
Anyway,
take it anyway it comes. Fuck it, absolutely. Hey, I never lost, I never drew. Look at that. Fucking put it on Twitter. Look, see,
Exactly.
Twitter rules.
Can't be picky. Yeah, Danny Swift Garcia getting nominated by fake ass Clever Sitol, Jason Chahal, fight night mood. He was doing the funny little dance in the ring afterwards, Garcia. He's a bit of a... I'll tell you what, he must be cleverer than us because he's made millions, but he does give off a bit of a simpleton vibe, old Swift.
Was that him doing the fucking
The
Scarface
fucking-
impression
The
again?
worst fucking Scarface impression. What part of the movie did Scarface put his two hands up in the air like that, like Beavis and Butthead, and start fucking going?
Aye, I fucking
What's that fucking Scarface? Fuck Casper Gomez and fuck the fucking Diaz brothers. I bury those cockroaches.
I just
Say hello to my little friend.
I just think that Ryan and Danny need to get together and have a support group for all Garcias with depression and anxiety.
Absolutely. Ryan and Danny together, helping you through your anxiety. What could be better? Nomination from you, Andy. Looks like Gary Neville. Anthony, $1 Million Crawler.
Anthony the Slab Crawler. What was it Rob called him? What was he called? Fucking Richard D. Hunter or
Richard
D. Hall?
Richard D. Hall.
Richard D. Hall.
Jury and Kate McCann, evidence-based research. Translation, the McCanns did that shit.
Honestly, he's also got this kind of Poundland, Orlando Bloom, Legolas for fucking Lord of the Rings there. If he just dyed that shit blonde, he'd be fucking right in the mix.
He looks like John Leguizamo in Summer of Sam.
What a movie, by the way. What a performance. Fuck's sake.
It was a good flick.
Fucking Richard D. Hall, man, with the guy from the space station, Bob, going to try and find out who hit him with a slab.
But it's the goatee beard does nothing for him, but he needs to get that shaved off immediately.
So
I mean,
Anthony's
the thing is, well, he's like 2 weeks away from a fucking Alice band as well. That's the other thing.
Steve, I put that one in the chat for you last night. I thought you would have seen it, Richard D. Hall. I fucking immediately thought of fucking cattle mutilation the minute I seen that photograph.
Illuminati on Channel 5.
RichPlanetTV.com.
Planet.tv. Oh, some people won't have a clue what we're going on about, man, but that is fucking class. That's one of the best ones yet, that is, man. You'd like Richard D. Hall, Matty. That's right up your street, that is.
Oh, why? He's on these conspiracy theories, mate. You be drinking that in like the Kool-Aid, bitch.
I am a reformed conspiracy theorist. I only operate on facts
absolute
now.
bollocks.
Get in there, man. The Jill Dando one's a good watch. Anyway, we'll move
You
on.
and Rob are made for each other, by the way. Your conspiracies.
No, man, he fucking tries to disprove the conspiracies. That's what I have to check out on him.
Clouds Gaming. Shout out to Rich Planet TV.
Challenge
anyway,
Rob with facts, and it just becomes too complicated for him.
No facts on a Sunday evening. Thank you, Matthew. Spaceman, start of the night. During round one of the Caroline Dubois fight, not one of the commentary team called anything that actually happened. If I was blind, I wouldn't have known who won the round. Turned it off after round one, shite. And the opponent came from Tanzania, which also dragged in Andy, the retweet Tanzania bot.
I didn't see the fight, but I will say this. I believe everything that tweet just stated there, because how often have we sat and watched fights and seen the fucking away fighter land a good combination, and the fuckers are just talking about, I don't know, Ebony Bridges' his fucking bra strap, for example, you know. It happens all the time. It happens every other fucking week. It's something will be happening. They're too busy talking about the story. It's a hard, rough fucking fight, all this pish.
What they do for a job and all.
Aye, exactly.
Yeah.
That's just how
Chris Billingsmith, he's a dad, you know. He has a child. There's a child's welfare at stake here. He's giving it his also very best, Chris Billingsmith. He's a new father. Have I mentioned that he's just had a child, Matthew?
I'm getting Roy Keane vibes here, by the way. He didn't have the fucking baby.
It's fucking 5 yards, Gary. It's 5 yards, Gary.
Macklin's shit, man. Isn't he? Like, I mean, as an analyst, I mentioned Natasha Jonas earlier. I mean, she's all right. Like, I'm going to surprise people here. As a pundit, I'm actually quite liking Abner Mares. Every now and again, he drops in wee nuggets on Showtime. And I think, oh, yeah, that's a good point, actually. Never thought about that. Little analysis from his career. That's what you want from a pundit. Macklin is just absolutely useless.
Well,
so was Mares talking about how he's a dirty bastard? He should drop fucking bollock shots. Take Joseph Abeko, for example.
It takes Mares about 3 rounds to get his point out. But when he does, he actually does come up with good points now and again.
I'll tell you what, right, how this fucking pod has ruined me, because I was a big Abner Mares fan. Like, I actually really liked him when he was active. I thought he was exciting. Like, And then Andy called him a woggle-eyed freak one night on the pod, and every time I heard his name ever since, that's what's come into my head. And by the way, Macklin, he has some neck, as Conor McGregor's sister once said in a voicemail. He's sitting brazenly on Sky with all the fucking allegations that have been fucking thrown at him by Nicola Talent and whoever else, and he doesn't give a flying fuck, man, commentating from the hotspot on a Saturday night on fucking mainstream Sky. So stick that up your dojo, says Matthew Macklin.
Alan Stacey says Macklin has a lot on his mind, in fairness.
He's getting sued, isn't he?
Oh, I don't know.
It's Ben Shalom. Good guy, that.
Ben Shalom. Good old Ben Shalom.
Shame to see that.
Anyway, shout out to Caroline Dubois. Oh dear, here we go. Brian King.
No.
Jumping in there.
I'm surprised Brian's first person on it. Not. I think we're all on it, actually, to be honest.
The old flexual predator. I hold my hands up. No excuses. I tried my luck and got very publicly embarrassed. Play stupid games. Sonny got to be good. But I made it easy for him with my stupidity. For anyone who's been hiding under a Mars-shaped rock, Andy, what's going on here?
I don't know, mate. He blocked me. There he is, the flex pest himself. Yeah, look, what can I say, mate? I dare say we've all been there, got to the point where a lady, shall we say, and says, look, I want to fornicate with you, but at the end of the day, the guy's in his 40s, I think she's 18, I think. So there's levels to this game, you got to go north, Danny. You didn't go fucking that far south. If you're going to go south, hit about the 30 mark. Anything below that, then you got to pay for it. So yeah, it's just a bit embarrassing. That he was meant to turn up at the Sky Show last night. I don't think he made an appearance. He's taken a leave of absence. Sad to see. But as I say, I think they don't get catfished. Actually, the Sonny no set him up for this. I don't know, but if it was very fucking creepily exposed, shall we say? Well, what he's done has been creepy, I always say. But as he's 40, I think she's 18, as I say, man, it just doesn't sit well with fucking.
The thing is, though, of all the people, anything to do with Sonny Edwards, he was sparring a troll last week, social media, non-stop all day, going back and forward with people. I mean, of all the people you could have got tangled into a web with, Edwards, come on.
Yeah, Sonny fucking loves it, man. He actually, I think he actually kind of like braves on it, lives off it, and he's fucking quality at doing it. Like, so look, I don't know how it's been set up, to be fair, but he's caught him properly good. This says it's been weird behaviour. Look, Danny, I'm sorry, mate. Look, I know you blocked me and that. You probably listen to the pod from time to time. You're probably feeling a bit lonely just now. Fucking just fucking hold your hands up, mate. That's it. That's all you can do. You've been caught out with a fucking bad one, that you're a fucking pervert. So look,
well, he did say thanks to everybody who's reached out, but I mean, I don't know who would be reaching out. But, I suppose.
I personally think that he should be a prostitute.
You broke up a wee bit there. So, say that again.
I said I think he should buy a prostitute.
Well, I don't know.
I think they're expensive enough to buy, man. I think you have to lease them more so.
It would relieve some strain if he's got a bad back, for example.
Rent a snatch, Rob.
Rent a snatch. He gets another copyright strike.
I don't know this guy, honestly, right? I don't know because, everyone knows I don't actively participate in boxing Twitter or nothing. I do my boxing talk here and here only, and would use after the chat, and I don't kind of engage in boxing Twitter, so I don't know who Danny Flexen is. Like, well, obviously, I was privy to the information.
He's flexing, mate. He's flexing. That's what he's doing.
He's Funkmaster flexing, but like, I kind of feel sorry for him in a way, like where. He has no game, does he? Like, who the fuck does he think he's getting into bed with lines like that? Like, you're so fit. I'm in the club, baby. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's not exactly fucking pimping Ken, this guy, is he? Like, so
it's
I
a
don't
bad
know,
way to get caught out, right? And I'll tell you what, we'll end on a funny note, right? I'll tell you a story about how a guy got caught cheating on his wife, right? So what was happening is this guy was going around taking his fucking 5-year-old son with him, right? And he was getting left to watch the television while he was upstairs with the fucking mistress doing the business, right? How does he get caught out, you ask? Well, what was happening is young 5-year-olds walk along the street this day with his mother, right, and sees this woman who was called Auntie Sally was walking along the road. And the wee 5-year-old says, "Oh, Mammy, there's Auntie Sally standing there." And the mum's like, "Who the fuck's Auntie Sally when she's at home here?" And this is how they fucking found out. Mammy went to Auntie Sally and says, "How does my son know you?" "Hi, Auntie Sally, ice cream, biscuits, all that type of stuff. What's going on here?" Oh, I've been shagging your husband.
Shout out to Auntie Sally.
So he got grasped by his 5-year-old son. Absolutely tremendous. So probably a wee funny note to end it on there.
Well, I know a fella who was
How
caught
we get
cheating.
outed.
I know a fella who was caught cheating because both of the women he was cheating with had brother-in-laws that were into greyhound racing, and they were at the dog track, and they were like, "Who's your sister going with now?" And they were both like, said the fella's name. So I'll tell you who that is another time.
It happened to a boxer a few years ago. I can't remember who it was. Do you remember on Twitter and all? It was like some low-level boxer, I think, and he got outed, or
what was that?
He was going with his sister, or I can't remember the exact story. I can't mind. I'll have to fish it out during the week. It's just coming off the top of my head there, but yeah, right. It wasn't Auntie Sally anyway.
Poor Auntie Sally, imagine getting fronted up like that of Mammy.
Yeah. Wait till fucking Wurzel Gummies finds out about it. He's going to be devastated.
Talking of Wurzel Gummidge, there he is on the screen, old Jake Paul himself. Mauricio Suleiman never lets up an opportunity to get stuck into these celebrity fights. Coming August the 6th, well, not now, Jake Paul will take on Hasim Rahman Jr. Winning this fight will earn him a WBC ranking at Showtime Boxing. He's fucking shameless, isn't he?
I just pulled up his fucking box right? So see, how the fuck can you really put this guy in the top 15 ranking that he's mentioned here off the shite that he's fucking fought? Has he even fought like a rank contender? I mean, he's fought Tyron Woodley, was it twice? I think it was. Ben Askren, who just retired for MMA. Who was other? I forget the other ones, if there was any other ones. That
basketball player Robinson, wasn't it?
Aye. So that's enough to get right. Well, out of all of them, I believe not one had a professional victory. Right, and this is somehow managed to get him a WBC ranking somehow, or would have got my WBC ranking.
They're absolutely shameless, aren't they?
It's fucking Jimmy Pinstripes again, mate, isn't it?
No, yeah, absolutely, no difference whatsoever. Fake Ass has nominated Sergio Mora. Let me say it again, says Mora. Picking up a vacant belt makes you a title holder, but beating a champion makes you a champion. Fake Ass has tagged in Tony Bellew. A lot of sense to what Mora's saying there. Yeah, I can get on board with that one, Sergio. Or get on board with this, Andy. You nominated this guy. He's a character, isn't he? Art man. He's like the American Chuck Woo. Quick reps at the barbershop. Listening to Tariq Shahid. FBI. Hashtag Art Man Boxing.
Oh, mate. I don't know what it is with him. There's something going on there, like, but we'll just leave like the poor technique. Though I'm a fucking weightlifter and that, but the technique was pretty poor. But who the fuck stands in their house with a fucking loaded pistol in their fucking
strap season? Strap season, baby.
Anybody can get it. What the fuck's all that about?
It's Americans. We're just, I mean, what if the
Matthew
tries to in your house?
Just seen as you're on the road, anything can happen in America, especially when you're fucking hitchhiking. I don't know if you've picked up anybody, for example, but you carrying a weapon with you just now? Are you cocked, rock, ready to rock?
I have pieces.
Yeah, you got one with you.
I got a piece, yeah. Matty with the piece. Be little Lord.
Hater Dave was cleaning his piece live on the show once. Remember?
It was
you might need to have you might need to have the piece on display when you still owe people for the fucking Deontay Wilder Tyson Fury 3 fight. You know what I mean? You might need to keep that strap on you, baby.
Good old art man. Strap season. James Becker has nominated Box Story, Rack Noble, White in 6, Dillian White against Deontay Wilder. Does him like he did Lucas Brown. Come on now.
Troll.
Former pro Raheem Noble there. Steve Boxman, in all your time watching boxing, which fight has had you the most hyped to see? Stacey Smith jumped in, biased as fuck, but I don't care. Ebony Bridges versus Roman. Outside of that, probably the Eubank versus Ben fights, especially the first one. Fantastic build-up and real needle with 2 qualified greats. There you go, Stacey.
Freak. That's another Danny Flexion one, that one. Like,
what the fuck is wrong with this guy?
Fuck Spence Crawford, man. Let's see Ebony Bridges versus Shanna Courtney too.
Oh, dear. Old Stacey. He's in the group. Better Q has nominated the Pound for Pound boxing show. Towel being thrown in for Eubank, saying that from now. That's regarding the Eubank Ben fight, which isn't taking place. DAZN Boxing still boasting about this. 2 years ago, we witnessed a 7-second KO. Vanderpool says, good to see DAZN reminding us of this momentous fight. Can put it alongside Tyson versus Spinks as one of the greats. I mean, this. What are they doing? I know they're trolling the count, but this was an absolute disgrace. I mean, it was like a housewife getting battered.
It was one of the worst mismatches you've ever seen. And women's boxing's had a few of them, but that was absolutely atrocious.
It's probably up there with the top 5 sexiest moments on DAZN. Really, when you think about it.
Only because we haven't been on there yet. Watch out, Akenbarak.
Yeah, watch. Yeah, we're coming for you, Akenbarak. You know Alexander. We Alexander.
Coming for this anyway on Sky Sports, Johnny Nelson. I'm convinced he's a troll now. I'd have outboxed you 6 as Nelson. Again, I've gone through it, Andy. I'm not going to belabor the point. Bean again last night. He was picking them out. Oh, he's one of the all-time greats. The historical revisionism of Nelson's career is just off the charts now.
To be fair, I did watch Rob Tibbett's interview with Bean on, I think it was Friday or Thursday. I think it was late in the week anyway, down on the beach. And he was saying it. He was calling Johnny out again for some of his comments. He doesn't agree with some of what he says. A lot is outlandish, pish, basically.
It's getting bad for brand, isn't it? Like, it's getting bad for
really
brand
is.
now. New beginnings on Boxer, and you have Johnny Nelson turning out the same old shit. It didn't really matter when they weren't when they were the monopoly, like it didn't really matter as much. But now when you have him, it just looks so off-brand when you have him saying, I would have beat Usyk. And I think they've even done like a Damage Control IFL video where Bean faces him up to tell him that he wouldn't have beat Usyk. Because that's bad. Like, they're promoting the fucking AJ Usyk fight. You got Johnny Nelson rolling around on their platform saying, I would have beat Usyk. Like,
Bean was actually incredulous, man, wasn't he? He was actually, what are you talking about? Even the facial expression, everything. What the fuck are you saying, Johnny, basically, you know? Still saying to this day, and he even says, I think Johnny was talking about a comeback, all that type of stuff. And
Johnny was a nice, solid belt holder, but he fought some shit, man. Nobody cared about Johnny at the time. That's just the reality of it.
Johnny it was a WBO cruiserweight title he held as well, was it not? So it wasn't exactly the most prestigious title in the world. Like.
Nelson had to go to Brazil for a world title fight, right? And he got paid in cash. Can you imagine trying to get that cash out of fucking Brazil? He actually got it out of the country, but he actually had to. Imagine the stress of that shit. That's the fucking level he was fucking fighting at. Trash like that, fucking paying fucking crap in cash, having to smuggle it back into the UK or something along those lines.
I liked him don't get me wrong, like I liked him for
nice guy,
his story's good and everything. Like he started and he was so bad and they laughed him out of the gym and he went on to become world champion because he stuck at it. Like fair play to him. Like
poor dog.
He's living it off. He's living off that reputation for the last 25 years, and that's no problem to me. But he's one of these guys. If he wasn't working for Sky, he wouldn't have a job anywhere else in boxing. Because his opinions on the sport these days are, he's dialed out, man. He's worse than me on a Saturday night preparing for these fucking podcasts. He doesn't give a fucking fuck about the fights. Like you can tell that he's not even watching some of the fellas he's talking about. And trust me, I know what that's like.
But the thing is, we get it though. He's Joshua's his friend in it and all that type of stuff. So he's probably thinking And the thing is, you don't notice everybody. Fraser Clark said that there last night as well. I think it was. We've had Eddie Hearn say it. We've had Nelson say it. They're all saying the kind of same thing, that Joshua needs to fucking set a pace and basically push fucking Usyk back on the back foot. It's not that simple. Surely it can't be that simple. Am I missing something here? I mean, these are obviously professionals. Well, no Eddie, but Johnny Nelson and Fraser Clark are professional fucking fighters, right? Surely it's just kind of about the pressure, man.
Here's my thoughts on that, right? And I don't want to get into overkill because I know we're in Bellew of the week and we will end up covering this. But the fact that maybe I've been trying to make it more exciting for myself in the build up to it, but the fact that AJ's potentially been working with Garcia longer behind the scenes is making it a closer fight for me. But how do you train? Yeah, because I think Garcia can improve him certainly from like an offensive point of view, and there is certain things he did get to Usyk at certain stages in the fight while he was boxing to conserve his gas tank. So if they can make certain adjustments, yes, he can make it closer. But how do you change Joshua reacting when he gets hit? Because all his tells become apparent when he gets hit and he gets hurt, doesn't he? Because he turns away, he backs into the ropes, he always looks really vulnerable. So how do you change that like in such a short time? But anyway, on to Bellew of the Week stuff.
No, you're right. We'll discuss that closer to the time. Greg Cross nominated Tio and his dad for the Kriegel interview about the lungs and all sorts, just weeks from his comeback fight. A preview of our conversation. Yeah, it was interesting hearing from Tio Senior. The guy is definitely off the charts. Dominic sent this in to me, not necessarily for Bellew of the Week, but I thought it was quite funny. He said, look at the comments below Hearn's latest IFL video. Phil Kane says, good to see Eric Molina has finally been dropped from the look at AJ's resume conversation. Dominic Brazil still hanging on in there, though. And Mr. Killer said, nearly a full hour with Hearn. Coogan's water bill must be due. We'd get slated for making them comments.
Even Ed, by the way, there was I actually saw a couple of minutes of that interview, the first couple of minutes, because it popped up in the suggestions. Get a life, me. And it was funny because at the start of it, Eddie was saying like, oh, that's definitely a burner account that you have there, Cougs, about some, I don't know what the fuck they were talking about. And then Coogan was like, you've got a burner account, Ed. And then Eddie was like, no. And he goes, well, you are responsible for, and he was about to say, like, you own, and then Eddie stopped him mysteriously mid-sentence, so I never got to what he was getting to there, but I kind of draw my own conclusions. I almost felt like Coogan was going to say, you've got a ton of burner accounts, Ed. Even an Ed wouldn't be like you.
Eddie and the bots flying around everywhere. The boys in the Nutters group alerted me to this earlier. The boy in Gad's bio, he has his love affair with the motorbike. He's had a motorbike for a few years as the Gad, and this is what he's got up in his bio from the Telegraph. It includes such fantastic prose as this. I've crashed it 3 times, set off speed cameras, and I was once pulled over by 4 huge heavies from the Hells Angels who were in a Volvo demanding to see my badge. They ripped open my jacket, and once I'd convinced them I was a lone rider, they apologised, made their excuses and left. The bike slides on manhole covers in the wet and does not
Listen,
want
I'm
to
a
go
lone
over more than a couple
rider.
of degrees when cornering.
Does he sound like David Diamante territory here?
Yes, I was going to say,
What's going on here?
who wrote that bio? Diamante? Fuck off with you.
Oh my god, he must have wrote that himself if it's in his paper as well, eh?
Oh, he did, yeah.
What the fucking midlife crisis is going on in that picture, by the way? Fuck me, man. Like,
Look like Sean Bean there a wee bit, eh?
Yeah. Could be beheaded any second. No, Sean Bean.
I mean, listen, I hope he doesn't hit the fucking, the manhole covers at fucking speed one night in the rain, heaven forbid.
Heaven forbid, the Gad. We love the Gad. A final few. Tom Gray Boxing going in on Leonard Ellaby, dealing with facts. Tom putting his journalistic integrity to one side. He's a rare breed, that Gray fella. I think it's you that needs to worry about what you do for a living to Leonard. Despite having a stable of active fighters, you're openly boasting that a 7-year retired ex-champ is the face of boxing. You're as bright as a blackout. P.S. Eddie Hearn would burst you. It's your countryman here going in, Andy.
I speak. I'm in big trouble. No.
Thoroughly disowned. Thoroughly dazzled.
No. For what I've met Tom a couple of times, I don't think he remembers me, to be fair. But for what I fucking saw of him, at least, that he got a wee bit of kind of temper on him. If he gets a wee bit riled, shall we say? I think we all have. Scots are just like that, I've always said, never fucking ask why, demand how. So that's just that. Let's just leave it at that.
Doesn't want to go in on Ellaby. Ellaby's been ticking my boxes lately with his view on DAZN anyway.
And it's just an example of that Canelo's popularity has gone down drastically because, again, he's signed to an app that nobody watches.
It's true.
That's not
soft interesting as well.
That's hard ass shit there from Leonard.
With none of that soft ass shit there,
An app that nobody watches, says Leonard. Final couple. Jake Paul, as we know, Rackman has pulled out. Tom Little jumped in. I'd come get to £210, beat him, and give the money to Great Ormond Street Hospital, says Tom Little.
Aye.
Rob's not impressed. What do you think about that one?
You broke up there.
As everybody else is at it, I feel like I should call out Jake Paul as well. I could get to £210 and donate all the money to the same charity that Tyson Fury donated his purse from Wilder to.
I mean, fucking hell, I would need to put on at least £40 to fucking make that. So I'd need to wear ankle weights and fucking something.
Someone in the chat tell me what 93 kilos is in pounds there, and I see going to get down for Jake Paul.
Give me a second, I'll get to 93 kilos.
Well, I'm getting down.
205.
I get up there 5 pounds, no problem over the weekend. We'll make that happen. Get your people to call my people. Brian Peters is represent me.
Need a couple of curries and a couple of macaroni pies here. Maybe holding a couple of shites. Maybe just I could maybe make that possibly. I'll need a heavy weekend though.
We're talking of heavy weekends. I neglected to add this one in last week, Andy, but it's well worth carrying over. the main man himself, Big Baby. Look at the state of that fat cunt, as you eloquently said whenever you sent me that photo. And his opponent looks like he's in great shape too.
Hey,
That's Bigger
I think
Baby.
that's about the best thing about Miller there, at least he's shaved his fucking chest, man, instead of that other one. Fuck it. It's just, I mean, which one do you think has probably got the stronger titties to open up a bottle of beer? You know?
It's Big Baby versus give me my baby back ribs.
Barbecue, baby. Garlic mayo on the side. Fuck it, Jesus.
Tri-star boxing. At least he got rid of Derek Cardenas in quick time.
He's active though. That's 2 fights this year now, mate.
Yeah, very active. The weight's flying off him. He'll be down to 300 pounds before you know it.
Ozzie Smith would have fucking thrown the fucking computer against the fucking wall if he'd have seen that picture, wouldn't he?
Absolute disgrace.
Absolute
He
disgrace.
would have cracked up.
Fat cunt.
Right, that's all the ones I've got, Andy. Do you have any nominations?
Nah,
please?
no money, mate. No money. I did get one. I know it's easy to hate on Josh Taylor these days, and that's especially after I'm doubling down on the Cartrell result. But he called in at the Talk Sport. It must have been one of the evening kind of boxing shows. That Adam Cartrell and fucking the Gad were on it. Anyways, I think Cartrell had been basically claiming that it was like corruption and brown bags, all that type of stuff. So Josh Taylor basically called him out on it, and you can see fucking Cartrell getting shifty on his chair because he's saying to him, listen, see your comments. And as I say, Josh has to help himself, but see at the same time, off the back of the comments, Josh Taylor and his wife and his fucking family started getting death threats. And see, at the end of the day, okay, maybe never helped the situation by working what he said. It wasn't his fucking fault at the end of the day. You know, as I say, didn't help the situation, but this is good to see Cartrell fucking squimming a little bit there, the fucking Tadger. And
Cartrell defending Cartrell?
No, I was fucking saying to Taylor, just fucking calling him out because, you know, not many people would actually do it. They would maybe agree with it, apologise. Taylor just fucking doubles down. Doesn't give a fuck. You like it or you don't. At the end of the day, I didn't mind it, to be honest, because I can get
fair play to him for going in there. I mean, it's boxing at the end of the day. It's a sport. I mean, I love a death threat like the next person, but that was just getting ridiculous.
Yeah. Fraser Clark, again, another one jumping on this bandwagon that, usually, Josh, what he needs to do is out hustle Usyk, basically. So, again, that's Nelson, Eddie Hearn, Fraser Clark, a few others that I've not picked up on it, maybe Joshua Buatsi. Cougs will probably feel the same. We'll wait and see, but yeah, that's all I've got this week, mate.
Good stuff. Thank you very much, Andy. Any from you, Rob, please?
Yeah, I thought Ben Whittaker's performance post-fight was worthy of Bellew of the Week nomination, especially when he said no fella in jean shorts can beat me. Didn't like the way he pushed up against me on the way in. It's fucking debut fight, like, it's a bit of a joke. So, you know, it fucking really irked me last night when I was watching that. Like, Ebony Bridges, Ebbs, got in on the Funkmaster Flex situation, didn't she? And she said, yeah, he's always been a pervert. That's probably why he never even liked me, because he knew that I was out of his league. It was fucking nothing to do with you, right? Fucking, he was hitting on some other fucking Sonny Edwards' sister or something. Absolutely nothing to do with Ebony Bridges. There's no evidence that fucking,
she's
the
too old.
Funkmaster Flex ever did anything inappropriate towards Ebony Bridges. So that wasn't fair. So I think she's since deleted that tweet when people were giving her pelters. Even her loyal fan base were probably fucking way worse.
He was shitting on him for not coming on to her.
Exactly. She's too old for him. That's
because he knew better than to fucking, because she was out of his. What's that saying about Sonny Edwards' sister, by the way? Anyway, there's, as we all know, there's levels to leagues and the prediction leagues, especially.
Apparently, what's his name? What's his name at Fight? No, Fight Hype. Was it's Fight Hype? What's his name? Marco something or Marco something. He came out and tweeted something. I think his Sonny's got a hot sister. Like,
who's Velajas? What do you call him?
That's him. That's a bit a kind of weird question or a weird statement to make, you know.
And I have one for Keith, one time Thurman, who on his Instagram has posted a picture of him and Danny Garcia at the weigh-in with his hair down and flowing. He says, "I'm too pretty. I'm too blessed. Danny Garcia can never pass the Keith Thurman test. I beat that boy with bone spurs, you see. I wasn't even at my best. Look, man. My IQ is higher. His feet are slow like a flat tire. Be careful what you wish for, you silly Philly boy. This is not a game. It's not Street Fighter. But I will still hit you with that yoga fire. #one time." So it'd be nice if he #one time had a fight.
Fucking Matty should have been here for that moment, by the way. I wish Matty was here for that one.
Fucking hell. clearly up in Kathmandu smoking that good shit. Keith Thurman when he's laying down those bars to Danny
Get flights,
Garcia.
Rob. Book the
He's a
flights.
waster, isn't him?
He's an absolute PVC, taking the money, ponytail having, fucking up in Kathmandu, weed smoking, piss taker. Absolutely overpaid fucker. You look at the women in the UFC last night smashing the fuck out of each other. They probably got about 25 grand each. And this fucker is getting $1 million each. And he's off fucking rehabilitating his shoulder for the last 5 years instead of fighting anyone. And then loses gets the fucking golden goose and Manny Pacquiao and fucking fumbles the bag. And now he's rapping to Danny Garcia while Danny Garcia is displaying some kind of level of vulnerability post-fight. Keith Thurman not reading the room really well there, and just fucking typical of his career over the last 5 years. So one-time Thurman with some Shane Mosley poetry there to finish off Sunday, and Eddie as well, and Cougs for that bot thing. Don't think I didn't fucking see his. I saw his. Evening Ed.
Evening Ed. Good
Get a
nomination
life,
from Rob. Yeah.
Get a life, Rob.
Absolutely, get a life on a Sunday evening. Rapping. Rob's nominations have gone in there, so Andy's, I'll quickly fly over the ones that I had as well before we all pick and get out of here for the night. So we had Rick Glazer, we had Jim Gray, we had Wasserman Boxing, Danny Garcia, $1 Crawler, Tanzania and Spaceman, Danye West himself, the old Flex, and Mauricio Suleiman got thrown in as well, Sergio Mora, Artman Boxing, Rack Noble, Stacey Smith, Ebony Fan Club Extraordinaire, the Pound for Pound Boxing Show, DAZN Boxing, Johnny Nelson, Mark Kriegel alongside Tio Lopez Sr. and Jr., the comments on Eddie, the Gad, on his motorbike, Tom Gray and Ellaby Spat, Tom Little, trying to get down to fight Rackman, and the two fatties in the heavyweights as well. So quite a strong week. Andy, who are you going for?
Trying to think now, mate. It's a hard one. I think we need to give this full kind of thought, actually, to be honest with you. So let's just give it a second to count down to this. Get your votes in, troops.
Does this count as an awkward silence?
No.
I'm picturing fucking Rachel Riley standing beside a board that just says Danny Flexing.
And the votes are in. It's the Flex pest himself, Danny Flex. The votes are conclusive. The winners is announced. There it is, Danny Flexing. Congratulations, sir.
Oh, Danny. Anyone can get it. Yeah, it's got to be. What are you going for, Rob?
Well, it's kind of fucking difficult to vote against Funkmaster Flex in it. Just when you see the thread of it is yeah, but I didn't tell him you're the sister that I want to F asterisk. Fuck off. How does he think that's going to work? Does this fella fucking ever spoken to a woman before? Jesus Christ, Danny, man. Go to the Tate University or something, right? You know them fucking Andrew Tate characters that are giving all these YouTube fucking, get up, clean your room, treat pictures like shit, earn lots of money. You need, you know what I mean? There's methods and all now that you can apply. You don't have to be sending messages at 1 a.m. in the club.
In the club, the thing is though, mate, you've got to actually appreciate.
Bet that club was fucking off the chain, by the way.
He's trying to have twice the sex with half the foreplay. That's what he's doing, mate. He's not getting this fucking base 1. He's skipping the base 5 and getting right in there.
It's like a big over 6 Dalmatian or something. Just relax, man. There's fucking, you know what I mean? Just chill the fuck out. Don't be trying to get to the fucking end zone so quick.
Smoke some weed.
Just step off and let the opponent come to you, Rob.
Yeah,
the game is the game. You have to let him lay it out so you can play it out. You know what I mean? You can't be fucking getting too hasty in the DMs.
Too much like Pat Mahomes in his fucking pickup game, to be honest with you. He's too aggressive.
Well, I would have said shades of Ray Pop now, a prime Ray Pop.
Ray Pop, you go back there.
Possibly even Carlos Baldwin, you never know.
Right, anyway.
I liked O'Hara Davis's retort to it all. He got in there, didn't he? And he said, "You're a sick pervert or something. I always thought there was something wrong about you. Why don't you go for somebody that has bigger titties than you?"
Who said that?
O'Hara Davis. One of the highlights of his career, actually. That
throwing him under the bus.
Apparently, O'Hara Davis knew about him, years before. Must have smelt him with his 2 noses,
Anyway, we'll move on. 10 to 11. Congratulations, Danny Flexen. You are the Value of the Week winner for episode 485.
And let that be a lesson to everybody. Leave Sonny Edwards the fuck alone. Anybody who has fucking beef with Sonny Edwards, just fucking leave him. Do a Tony Bellew and leave him alone.
Right. Just pretend you died. All right, fucking hell.
Oh dear. Right, let's finish up then. Matty's disappeared, but he will be back in the hot seat for episode 486. We'll maybe have something else to talk about then. Well, the lead up indeed to AJ against Usyk. We're all looking forward to it here. First of all, shout out to everybody who's thrown a super chat in tonight. I have starred them all. Josh Hall, thank you to you. Thank you to Dave, your man 100. To Magic Mike, Charlie Burley TBE, Liam Wynn, Craig Longdon, Alan Stacey, and Richard Graville, the man himself.
Thank you to everyone here. We almost got to the 500. Maybe next week.
What about the likes? We've got
likes. Don't forget the likes. Over
16
100 tonight. And all the way through August. And then we'll
Chid,
do a
I
show
wanted to change my
in
nomination to fucking Anthony Crawler for the Richard Hall one. Fuck it. Anyway, special mention to him.
Special mention to him. Right, thanks to everybody who's been on tonight. Rob Kelly, Andy, Matty, and Rob Tebbit, who joined us earlier. I've been Steve Wellings. Don't forget to hit the like button if you want that special show in September. And we'll see you all for episode 486. Same time, same place next week. And bye.
We'll never forget.
I think that's good happening.
We want to be honest, yeah.
Crying like a little bitch.
I've never met a fucking swank that can fight me.
I fell asleep. I fell asleep.
You're a fucking bum. You're a fucking asshole.
Rumpo fucking Steltskin.
But allegedly, Oscar Rivas has failed a test.
7-year ain't. 7-year ain't.
I will fucking smash fucking you.
I hope you fucking die. Be safe.
I love boxing sounds. Simple as that.